Hello everyone and welcome to the Hungary. This is another round of the 2022 Superleague Championship, round 10 in fact. And like I said, we're at the Hungary in Budapest, or just outside of Budapest in Hungary. We're going to have a 70-lap race today. It's a relatively short circuit, but one that is going to be interesting in terms of strategy. Plenty of pit stops being made in all of the junior categories, more than you would expect. And that's something that the drivers are going to have to keep on their minds today. First, though, we have a 15-minute qualifying session to decide the grid for the circuit. And considering this is a difficult circuit to overtake on, this qualifying session could be one of the most important of the year. Joining me in the commentary box today, well, first of all, the broadcast director, as you can see there, is Szymon Frelik, as it was before. But alongside me, after his trip to the States, is Ross McIntyre. Ross, how was California?
It was really nice, thank you. Yeah, had a very good time, but we're very glad to be back on home soil. I'm very glad to be back here as well with GPVWC. And as you say, Caitlin, yes, here at the Hungary for some qualifying and then a Super League race once again. And this is a great track, isn't it? It's a real personal favourite of mine. I want to say it's a bit of a modern classic, but it almost feels too old to be modern now, so I guess it's not quite a modern classic, but it's too new to be a classic, if that makes sense. Kind of constructed back in the 80s, it's a real staple of, you know, Formula 1 nowadays and a lot of esports single-seater calendars. It's a great track, a real test of drivers' skill and endurance. Well, perhaps not the best for on-track racing, not the most kind of overtaking spots, not a lot of kind of wheel-to-wheel action here. It is exciting nonetheless. It's all about strategy. It's all about driver physicality and endurance, and I'm sure it's going to provide us with a fantastic race today.
Indeed, the first Grand Prix here started in 1986, won of course by Nelson Piquet, after that move around the outside of Ayrton Senna. Famous overtake that one was. This year, of course, we've got, I've noticed we've got some predictions coming in the YouTube chats already. Alex saying, I think Yannick Bock is the early favourite, but this league can be unpredictable. Absolutely, that's one of the things I love about Grand Prix racing, both virtual and real. It is so unpredictable. And that's one of the reasons that even though this track is difficult to overtake on, I don't think it's bad for racing at all. I think it's still going to provide a good race because Super League and racing is unpredictable. We've got strategy, we've got reliability, we've got the fact that the circuit is so difficult to traverse. I mean, the middle section in particular, there really is no margin for error. So don't write this off just because there's going to be fewer overtakes here today than at the average Grand Prix. Toby Davis saying he's excited. Alex also excited. Ryan, hello to you. Lee Davison, Jeffrey Fournier, plenty of names that I recognize in the YouTube chat currently. And we're watching as Tomasz Włoch is about to set a for a competitive lap, one of the first in the session, if not the first in the session, and it was. So the banker comes in from Tomasz Włoch, a 1:14. Well, never mind, because it's been beaten a couple of times now. Robin Panzer, Matthias Moos. So it's Moos at the top now, and Stefan Rohr goes to the top, the reigning champion who finished 4th in the last race. And the times continue to tumble, as they probably will for the next 12 minutes, Ross.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, as we've seen throughout this year, a new regulation brought in this season. We have this private qualifying here in GPVWC. Now it's a feature of R-Factor 2, not quite shared by other simulators, where in qualifying, if turned on, you essentially get to have the track for yourself, but everyone else is also out on track, but you can't see them. It's a bit confusing. Essentially, it's... If you cast your minds back to kind of mid-2000s Formula 1, we had the one-shot qualifying thing. It's kind of like that, I suppose, except you don't get one shot, you get a whole session. It's just you on track. So it's all about the driver, all about the setup. You know, you can't, make mistakes if other people are there. You can't get held up. You can't get slipstreams of other drivers either. So it's the fairest form of qualifying that we have on offer, as Thomas Harvey goes P6 there, a 1:14.334. A very good lap time that, but still some left in the tank, I'm sure. A 1:13.196 is the time to beat from your reigning champion from last season, Stefan Rolt. But yeah, times are of course going to tumble. There's still 10 minutes and 50 seconds left in this qualifying session. And of course, as the qualifying goes on, the track gets more and more rubbered in. The drivers leaving down that rubber, it gets faster and faster as the cars lose fuel as well. And as the tyres just you become more acclimatized to the track, you get used to hot lapping. Ultimately, the times are going to be dropping below that 1:13.9. Will we be seeing them drop into the 1:12s? Not quite sure yet. Maybe if the track evolution is very, very fast. But right now, 1:13.9, it's a very good lap to start off this qualifying from Stefan Rolt. He's currently the only driver in that 1:13 band. But again, there's still lots of time to go, Caitlin. 10 minutes left. The times are going to tumble. And, well, we talk about Yannick Bock being a favourite. I mean, of course, he is now leading the Drivers' Championship by 10 points after that second place behind his brother Leon from that 1-2 in Austria last time. He had a better result than the previous championship leader and now second place, Maciej Milnik, who had a rough couple of last few races by his standards. So, you know, there's still 10 points in it, so it is very close. But, well, it very much seems that Yannick Bock, who was runner-up last season, the vice-champion, he's now the driver in control of this championship. But currently, he's only P4. But if you look for Maciej Milnik, he is nowhere to be seen on that timing screen, perhaps yet to put a strong lap in. And yeah, actually, there you go. He is yet to put a lap in, so that's why you're not seeing him, as he hasn't actually gone out and registered the time. But yeah, so we'll have to wait and see how this battle for the championship continues into this round here in Hungary. Of course, Yannick now has the momentum behind him, but Maciej Milnik, remember, he's been phenomenal so far this season. With only 10 points in it, all it takes is one DNF, one mistake, and it completely flips on its head.
Now, I'll be interested to see how Munich actually went back to the pits, because he has been out a couple of times. He's back out on track now. Okay, so that shows that he hasn't had an accident or anything along those lines. He's just been back to the pits. He does actually have the fastest first sector of anyone in this qualifying session so far, but he has not been able to actually complete a full lap so far. Now, let me quickly run you through a couple of the driver changes. First of all, a very minor one. Heiko Poom, who has driven the last 3 races for Epic Racing, has signed a full-time contract with Epic, so he will be doing the rest of the season, and therefore, of course, relinquishing his Superleague light drive. And alongside him, we have a little more of a surprising one, the return of Fabio Sixter. So Fabio Sixter, who of course has won 4 Superleague Grand Prix and last raced with us in 2020, has decided to return to GPVWC. And today he will be racing for, which team is he racing for? Scuderia Basilia there, and he is also yet to set a qualifying lap. So we've got a grid of 28 drivers getting ready to start this one, which is always lovely to see. Yannick Bock is now top of the times, 1:13.945, which he set not too long ago, and still just 2 hundredths of a second faster than Stefan Roth up the top there. The top 3 separated by less than 1/10 of a second. Very close, as always, in GPVWC Super League. 25 of our 28 drivers have set laps so far, and 19 of them are separated by a second. Keep an eye on those times. There could be some real shakeups in the order, especially since this track is so short.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, as we're seeing, the classic no time separating absolutely anybody here. It's less than 1/10 of a second covering the top 3. Yannick Bock followed by Stefan Rolt, followed by Leon Bock, who's seemingly hit a really good run of form, especially considering that race win last time out at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. And then again, you know, you look further down, I mean, it's 9/10 of a second down to Germano Sapala in P19. I mean, that is just, well, now P20 as someone's just gone faster. It is ridiculously close once again. And we're used to seeing this in the Super League. I mean, you get to the top of the sim racing and everyone is on very, very similar times, but that is very, very close.
Winnick must have made a mistake in the second sector there, because you don't normally set the fastest first and third sectors of anyone and still end up 7th. So unless he made a mistake, he is obviously just not as quick as some of the other drivers in that second sector. And the second sector is the one with all of the twisty bits, the S's and such, the faster but still quite tight corners. Here's Mcguire. He picked up a 5-second penalty in the last race, and actually the reason that Geoffrey Fournier has not been out in this race just yet is because he has a back of the grid penalty, so there's not really much point in him qualifying. He's probably going to stay in the pits for the whole of this session. There's Thomas Harvey, still inside the top 10. A strong qualifier is Thomas, and appears to be improving on his times through the final corner now. Let's see what he can do with this lap. You only need to find a tiny bit of time on a track as short as this, and he goes up to P9, proving exactly that. Chris Shepherd still down in P16. Let me look at the time. Stefan Ruhl, fastest of anyone in the first sector, down by 2/10 in the second. He could still improve. Through the final corner goes Chris Shepherd there, and Ruhl is a little further back on the lap. Shepherd does still improve, goes 11th, and Stefan Ruhl, oh, no improvement, but only just there, just 400s off his best, and therefore only 600s off the pole time, Russ.
Yep, so, no, I mean, it could be a bit better, to be honest, from Mionnek, but again, there's still time left in this qualifying session, still time for him to kind of turn up the wick, as they say. I mean, it may have been a mistake or a lock-up somewhere. It's a very technical track here, the Hungaroring. Lots of places where it can go very wrong very, very quickly. So, you know, it's not all doom and gloom, not a disaster yet for Massage Mionnek. There's still time left yet to kind of get in there and get where he should be, right at the top of the timing screens. As Jannis Volburn, he can't improve on that lap, but it was a purple first sector. So Jannis Volburn maybe could be a bit of a dark horse here in the fight for pole position. Meanwhile, further back, it's Jukka-Pekka Laulu in P14. He set 2 best personal sectors in 1 and 2, highlighted by those green sectors. Of course, if you're just joining us here and you're new to GPVWC, new to esports racing, new to motorsport in general, of course, a purple sector, as we say, that's the best sector that anybody has set during the session, as Stavros Mercedes tries to show off his rallying skills, which isn't really what you want to be doing in a single seat. You want to keep it straight as possible instead of sideways. But yeah, as I was saying, a purple sector, that means it's the best sector or the best lap of the session of anybody. As we see there, Matthias Moos doing a perfect example by setting a purple sector 1. A green sector or a green lap means it's your personal best, and then a yellow sector means it's dead. It's not as good as you've done before. You're down on your previous times. But yeah, Matthias Moos, perfect example there, and seems to be a pretty tidy lap so far with that purple first sector, almost half a tenth quicker than the previous purple, and it was a purple second as well. So Matthias Moos suddenly for Red Archer VRT looking very, very pacey as he comes into the final sector now. Just a few corners, it all runs a little bit wide through the penultimate corner and decides to bail. He decides to bail. So even with those 2 first sectors, as Mcguire goes for a spin on the pit entry, Matthias Moos, and Mcguire had a purple first sector apparently. So Matthias Moos, that one mistake was all that was in it, and he decided that was enough. No point setting a lap. Let's go in and get a fresh share of the rubber and go again. That shows how tight it is at the top.
It makes me wonder what would have happened if he had finished that lap, because actually that was a perfect example of how the purple sectors don't actually mean that you're the fastest in the session overall. It just means that you're faster in the pole time, because Matthias there, although both his first two sectors were purple, they actually weren't even personal bests. He's been even quicker than that, but obviously he's just messed up the third sector more than once in this session. So he's got the potential, and now of course he has the opportunity to set the car up for one final run. But then of course you have the devil's advocate saying, well, maybe if he just finished that third sector, it wouldn't have been as bad as he thought. You know, maybe he would have been right up there. But then, of course, he wouldn't have had time for a final run. Let's watch Leon Buck. He appears to be down on his time, but oh, a good third sector there, up to P3. And again, it shows you how little time you have to actually find. He's just 0.02 of a second off second. He is just off the front row of the grid. My goodness, we could end up with a Jerez 97 style situation here if we're not careful, because the top 4 cars are separated by 0.5 of a second. This is brilliant stuff in the late stages of qualifying. Place your bets, because we have absolutely no idea who's going to be on pole here. Of course, Yannick Buck has the advantage, and if everyone else makes a mistake, he will be on pole. Chris Shepherd probably won't be on pole, but he might well get himself further up the grid with this lap. Through the final corner he goes. He'll not quite see the checkered flag, but that is being prepared. It'll be ready for the front runners soon. Shepherd goes P10. Mercedes might improve as well. He's currently the slowest of the drivers who have set times, I think. And across the line he goes, up to P25, to meet someone, to meet Giordano Valeriano. Hygo Poom will try to do the same after recently signing for Epic Racing Team full-time. But what I'm really waiting for are the times from the front few. Now, Leon Buck will not be going any faster. He is currently in the pits. And we've got to focus on some of the times that aren't even personal best, because as you can see from Stefan Rold there, that wasn't a great first sector, but it was still good enough to light the timing sector up in purple. His second sector is pretty good as well. This could be a real challenge, and Fabio Sixta's really improving as well. Fabio Sixta's lap is going to be another one that's going to come out of the blue any second now, because he's down in 17th, but I expect he's going to get into the top 5. Royal goes to pole, Krop goes 4th. What does Sixta do? Here he comes out of the final corner. This could be a real shock here from the returning Scuderia Brasilia driver, who puts himself on the front row of the grid on his return to Super League. Maciej Winnick is going to try to knock him off there again on his final lap. He's up in the first sector, slightly down in the second, but it's still a personal best across the line. And is it pole? It is for Maciej Winnick by 1/10 of a second. Fantastic. Bickers improves. Bickers goes 11th despite the purple second sector. Fantastic stuff from Maciej Winnick there, and I think that might be the last possible lap in qualifying. So Winnick will take pole alongside Stefan Roll. It's an all Edge Esports 1-2.
Huge lap there from Maciej Winnick. Absolutely monumental stuff, taking the pole by over 1/10 of a second. I mean, in real world motorsport terms, that's nothing. In GPVWC terms, that is everything. That is a huge gap. Just in front of the reigning champion and his teammate Stefan Roll, with Fabio Sixta on his return into P3. Great stuff from him. Yannick Bock can only manage 4th after dominating the early phase of qualifying. Tom Stevens managed to sneak into P5 at the end there, with Leon Bock, your previous race winner, in 6th. Moritz Krop is P7 with Daniel Stepkowski in 8th, with Thomas Harvey and Matthias Moose rounding out that top 10. But what a lap there from Maciej Winnick. Further down the grid, we've got Lewis Vickers in P11 with Adam Mcguire in the 14 number VBN Esports car. Yanis Volman is P13 with Philip Pushka in P14. Chris Shepherd is 15th with Michi Hoyer. He can only manage 16th. Jukka Lalu manages to slide in 17th with Daniel Brewer in 18th, with Robin Pansar and Thomas Vack on row 10 of the grid. Oh, is that row 10? Yeah, it is row 10. Ignore my dodgy maths. Eros Masculi is P21 with Alessandro Quinte in P22. Hygo Poom is 23rd with Germano Zapala in 24th. Augustin Canapino, he is 25th with Stavros Mercedes in 26th. Giordani Valeriano is 27th. And Jeffrey Fournier, he's 20th. He did not set a time in that qualifying session, but that is your grid for the Super League race here at the Hungaroring in Hungary. Clues in the name, isn't it? with a great result there for Masej Munich. Awesome stuff. Sixter as well, though, getting up there. What a late upset that is for most of the drivers. I'm sure that Yannick Bock, if he wants to kind of extend his championship lead, he's got a big ask ahead of him coming into this one. It's a 70-lap race around here at the Hungarian. It's not the longest circuit, but it's a test of endurance. Very physical track. You know, very big, lots of undulation, lots of bumps, you know, lots of medium speed corners that really take their toll on the driver and the car. And in front of him, he's got 3 other drivers, including his main championship rival. So Yannick Bock, I think he's going to be a little bit disappointed after that qualifying. So we'll have to wait and see how he's going to move forward in the race. But yeah, what a great result for Masej Munich there. But Sixter as well, Caitlin, as you said, first GPVWC Super League race since 2020, and he stuck it in 3rd as well. And Stefan Rowe as well, you know, reigning champion. He's not had the best of seasons, hasn't enjoyed the best of luck. To stick it into 2nd, that top 3, I'm sure they're all going to be absolutely delighted with that performance.
Absolutely, and I didn't even notice Tom Stevens in the end getting up to P5. Now this is only Tom's 3rd Super League race, so that is a very impressive qualifying performance from him. Moritz Kropp in P7, this is only his, I think, 3rd or 4th Super League race. He is also rather new to that, and he's qualified in P7 there. But yeah, Fabio Sixter, fantastic return there. One thing you do have to remember about Fabio is that he's got to deliver it in the race as well. Fabio is a good qualifier and always has been, and definitely can race, as shown by his 4 Super League wins. The trouble is, he's actually retired from his last 5 Super League races and hasn't scored points in his last 6. So Fabio Sixter does have to work on actually bringing the car home and delivering that result. But from 3rd place, he has every chance of doing so. He has Yannick Bock alongside him. That's going to be a tricky one. And now it's time to talk strategy as well, because we saw in the Formula Sprint 1, for example, drivers doing 2 stops in race 1 and 1 stop in race 2, and in each of those races, that's 1 stop more than you usually see. But that was only the winners who took those strategies. A lot of the other drivers tried to stick it out on a more traditional 1 stop then 0 stop strategy, and it didn't quite work out for them. Of course, these races are much longer than that, but I am expecting definite 3 stops pretty much universally. Of course, usually we get universal 2 stops, and then it's the 1 stoppers who are brave. We're going to get possibly some brave 2 stoppers, but I'm wondering whether anyone can be extra risky and go for a 4 stopper, just push on the softest tyres they can for pretty much the entire race and bring it home. It wouldn't be unprecedented. Of course, it's unusual, especially in the modern day and age, but I'm pretty sure the 2011 Hungarian Grand Prix was won using 4 or 5 stops, and that of course had the most this is the real life Formula 1 Grand Prix I'm talking about here, and that of course had the most pit stops in any real life Grand Prix in history. And here in 2017 in GPVWC Super League as well, we had something like 7 or 8 stops. So you do get a lot of pit stops here, and it's going to make strategy even less predictable than usually. Because usually it's between a 1 and 2 stop, and now we've got to consider 2, 3, and possibly even 4 stops.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was the Hungarian as well, where the 99 Hungarian Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher did like the 4 stopper, and he had like that famous stint where he did like 20 qualifying laps to win the race over David Coulthard or something along those lines. So it is a track where, you know, alternate strategies can work. And, you know, really pushing yourself out there and really pushing kind of the ties to them, you know, you can make it work, which is contrary to most tracks using a modern day formula. So we'll have to wait and see what the strategy is. But, you know, you can get 3 stops, 4 stoppers if you so wish. Although I'm not expecting that to be the favoured strategy. Typically in GPVWC, we kind of get 1 to 2 stops. That seems to be the favourite. I'm expecting it to be along those lines, but don't be surprised if you see a few drivers, perhaps those more in the midfield and at the back of the grid, opting for that 3-stop strategy. It is very much available. Again, it's a very short lap here, so there is 70 laps, but it's a very physical lap, a very fast lap. It's not like Monaco where, you know, you're kind of doing everything. Yes, there's lots of corners, but it's very, very slow. This is all medium speed stuff, you know, it really does take its toll on the tyres. So, yeah, don't be surprised if you see a few 3-stoppers, a 4-stopper if someone maybe loses a front wing along the way. So, it could all be to play for on the strategy front, but Yannick Bock, he's going to be having that on the edge of his mind. He's going to be looking to move forward as well after qualifying in P4. Not the not the greatest for Yannick Bock, I'm sure, when you consider who's in front of the Massage Minix, Stefan Roll, and Sixter, you know, the returning driver, the reigning champion, who bested him on the last lap of the final race last year, and the man who is currently in the championship battle with on pole position. So Yannick's got a big ask again. He did finish second in that Evolution 1-2 last time out in Austria, with his brother taking the win. But, you know, he's only 10 points ahead of Massage Minix in the championship. He's going to want to move forward. He's going to want to extend that gap. He feels safe. He feels comfortable in this championship fight, because let me tell you, there is nothing worse than when a driver takes the lead of the championship and then it's super, super close coming into the next race. Again, you know, he only just about took the championship lead. There might have been an equal point after Silverstone. It escapes me what the exact gap was. But then, you know, he's managed to best Massage Minix last time out, extended it to 10 points. And now, here we are then, the positions have swapped around. And, well, it's Yannick Bock on 135 in P4, Massage Minix on 125 points in P1. And, well, it's not long left in this warm-up session now before we have the red lights come on. They go out, we go racing, as you'd expect. And, well, it will be Massage Minix leading them away from the pole position. The young pole will be looking to, you know, convert that pole into a win, another win this season. It would be for him, and to retake the championship lead. What a night this would be for him if he could do that after what has been, I wouldn't say it's been a few rough rounds, because they haven't been terrible, but they've not been the best by his standards. Jeffrey Fournier gets a little bit out of step coming into the penultimate corner, runs a little bit wide after the rear of the car, just steps out on him slightly. Very easy to do that here again, these last 2 corners. Well, they're very long, very wide, and just very deep as well. Kind of those big 180-degree hairpins that you have to run. But yeah, 2 minutes left in this warm-up session. And yeah, it really could be all to play for coming into this one, Kalen. You know, you got a lot of really good drivers kind of situated at the top of the grid. Strategy is absolutely wide open here at the Hungaroring, and it is a race that is... It's very, very punishing. It's all about consistency. It's all about keeping it between the white lines. Yeah, we could have a pretty exciting one on our hands tonight.
Absolutely. Sorry, absolutely. Now in the YouTube chat, Toby Davis says, watch Stevens and Crop here. My guys, they've got good strat going. Now I absolutely believe that, because those were the 2 drivers who in the FS1 championship pitted more times than everyone else, and yet somehow managed to make it work, and they won both races. Tom Stevens, in fact, won both races single-handedly there, and Moritz Crop was right up near the front as well. So definitely watch out for Stevens and Crop, because they could be a force of nature today if they get that right. And wouldn't it be amazing if they were able to stick it up amongst the big guys, considering none of them have done more than a handful of Super League races. Also in the YouTube chat, I saw a comment that I was going to comment on. Tom Parker says, watch Pushka, he's fit. Yes, indeed. Well, Pushka is actually top of this warm-up session so far, which isn't everything, of course, because this isn't an official or competitive session, but it does show that he has some race pace, and he's psyched up enough to get it going right from the start. Tom Parker saying Fabio is a very good racer. He gets messed up by the connections 9 times out of 10. Yeah, that's another thing to consider. He, of course, has had 5 DNFs in a row, and if those were to do with his connections, then he's got to just keep his fingers crossed, I guess, that he makes it to the end. VBM saying evening to you too. VBM, Daniel Brewer, of course, in this race, and will be pushing hard to see where he can finish. And Adam Mcguire, of course, returning as well. That's something to point out. When was Adam Mcguire's last race in Super League? It was earlier this year, I know.
Yeah.
It was Monaco, so he hasn't been able to race since Monaco. Of course, every time Adam's finished so far this year, he's been on the podium. The trouble is he's only finished twice, and a lot of that has been due to missing races. But Adam could be another real contender later on today. We have an extremely competitive grid here, even by GPVWC standards, because not only do we have the usual competitive drivers up the front of the field here, but we have brand new competitive drivers in Stevens and Kropp, and we have returning competitive drivers as well in Mcguire and Sixter, and yeah, the front of the field here is so good, almost to Formula One standards, I'd say.
I wouldn't say that, because I think it's quite hard to compare sim racing to real racing. But yeah, we've got a great grid of drivers here, haven't we? I mean, of course, here at the Super League, you know, this is the top league in GPVWC. Out of the 5 that we offer, it's the best of the best in our Factor 2, in single-seater racing, in esports, and in sim racing. So it is a phenomenal grid of talent that we have here. And, you know, I think it's quite hard to, obviously, as I just said, to compare, you know, real-world motorsport to sim racing. I mean, obviously, you know, you do occasionally get racing drivers coming in and dropping in sim, but I don't think we've ever had, you know, an F1 level real-world racing driver dropping in to do a Super League race. Maybe if someone like Max Verstappen's listening or whatever, I know they do some sim racing, maybe you want to pop along sometime and show some love and support. But yeah, it's a difficult comparison, but again, you know, this is, in terms of sim racing, this is an absolutely phenomenally talented grid, and you'll be hard pushed to find one anywhere better, because, you know, just look at the qualifying results, look at how close everybody is. I mean, it was something like first down to 20th was separated by less than a second. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And you know, I think sim racing, you know, yes, we're lucky that you often get grids that are very, very close, but here in Super League, we are just blessed with a plethora of talent. And, you know, I'm so grateful that I get to come and commentate over such fantastic drivers and such fantastic racing week in and week out, not just in Super League, but in all the other championships that we run here at GPVWC as well. You know, the Super Lights and the Formula Sprint, as they're now called. It is absolutely fantastic. And as we just get ready to head out onto the grid for the formation, I'll give our Factor 2 a few seconds. It is it is absolutely brilliant. And well, if you're just joining us, hello and welcome. You join us for Hungary here in the Super League for GPVWC. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like, subscribe, share, follow, etc., etc. It really does help out everybody here at GPVWC. And if you fancy getting involved, of course, then head over to the GPVWC website and use the links there to head over to the Discord, where everything is really run from. We don't bite, we're actually quite nice. And of course, don't be afraid to keep chatting away in all of the live stream chats that we have. I'm sure Caitlin will keep an eye on them, as she always does. But yeah, here we are in the Super League and sat in the pit lane, just waiting to go racing.
Of course. Seems like a couple of drivers are having a few connection issues right now in this warm-up session. We've been waiting for Stefan Roll. He has now returned. There is still one driver who was in qualifying who isn't here, and I believe it's Geoffrey Fournier, who of course will be starting from the back anyway. But yeah, some of the drivers not happy with the current build of R Factor 2 and expressing that in the comments right now. We got some jokes about other sims that we can run this race on going on, but Geoffrey Fournier has returned now, so hopefully we will be able to get this race running with all 28 drivers. They're now being automatically put into their correct grid positions, and we'll be able to run you through the starting order once again as we go onto the formation lap, and then of course you'll be able to see just how close the grid was again, and reminisce about what was a fantastic qualifying session. Not much time to reminisce though. We've got a frantic race coming up, and it really will be 70 laps of it. I think it's the third shortest Grand Prix circuit on the calendar, behind Monaco and the Red Bull Ring. You can correct me on that if I'm not quite right, but I think
I think you are right. I think you are right.
Because it's one of only 3 that has 70 or more laps, I think. But anyway, onto the grid they go now, and it's actually 32 seconds, as I said that, until the formation lap begins. Every driver must be out on the grid by the time that timer ticks to 0, and they announce the start of the formation lap. They all like to come out last minute because they don't want to overheat the engine, let the tires get too cold, let the fuel run down. Sometimes I find that actually. I'm sitting on the grid for a while and I lose about sometimes up to half a litre of fuel, and obviously you've got to take that into your calculations, or just come out at the very last second, which Agustin Canapino has not done. So the driver who was supposed to start from 25th will be starting from the back. Anyway, let's run you through the starting order for this race. Of course, it's going to be an Edge 1-2 on the grid, and there you see those similarly liveried cars making their way through turn 1. Maciej Młynek on pole, followed by Stefan Roll. Then Fabio Sixter returns and puts his car third, ahead of championship leader Yannick Bock. 5th is Tom Stevens, and then it's Leon Buck, who scored his first victory last time out. Moritz Kropp is P7, and then it's Daniel Stepkowski, who has stepped up his game in the last few races. Thomas Harvey P9, Matthias Moos P10, and he was faster than that, so keep an eye on Matthias Moos. Lewis Bickers P11, Adam Mcguire returns and puts his car P12. Then it's Janis Vorburn, Philip Pushkir, Chris Shepherd, and Michi Hoyer. I think that's Philip's best qualifying of this season so far, so good on him. P17, Jakub Lalu. Then we have Daniel Brewer, Robin Panzer, and Tomasz Boch. Still only 20 cars through the order, 28 in total. Aras Masciuli, Alessandro Quinte, Hygo Poom, and Germano Zappala, both of the Pescara ADG cars together there. It's been a tough few races for them. Agustin Canapino, P25, Stavros Mizdaidis, then Giordano Valeriano, and Geoffrey Fournier making up the grid. Fournier, of course, will start from the back, although Agustin Canapino will have to start from the pit lane because he did not make it to the grid in time for the formation lap. So that is your grid, 28 cars here. And Russ, what a fantastic grid we have, and what an order. The top 10 on soft tyres. Lewis Bickers will lead the drivers on the alternate strategy.
Absolutely, we've got a very exciting race to look forward to, let me tell you. I mean, just the alternate strategy, let alone, I mean, everyone in the top 10 on the softs, everyone outside of the top 10 not on the softs. So it's all wide open here as they're all filing around the last corner now and into their grid slots as we wait for those 5 red mysterious lights that we all so love, we all so desire to go out. And well, Caitlin, I'll pass back over to you when they go out. But there is your pulse hitter, Maciej Młynek, alongside last year's champion, Stefan Roll. It's a 1-2 on the grid. Can they convert it in the race? Or maybe can someone cause an upset?
Okay, we have 28 cars to choose from. Leave your predictions in the comments before it's too late. We will look back on them at the end. There will be 5 red lights, and when they go out, we'll be underway at GPVWC at the Hungaroring. 70 laps await us. Here they come. 4 and 5 and go. So Maciej Młynek on pole. He gets the jump and will immediately cover off Roll, who actually hasn't got a good start at all. Sixter and Bock go either side of him, and they get through as they go up towards turn 1. Little bit of a touch, but it looks as if Rolt's going to regain it. Rolt back up into P2 now. And it is once again an edge 1-2. Sixter still third. Big slide there from Moritz Kropp. He's up to P5 now. Great start from Kropp, and he did well not to lose it all in an instant. Winnick, Roth, Sixter, Buck and Krop is the order, and 28 drivers have made it through. Germano Zapala is the first car to miss wings, so Zapala has had a shunt out there somewhere. He's missing both his front and rear wings, and we can still see his rear wing there, but he's lost his front at least. But 27 cars still relatively unaffected. And as they head through the S's, a little bit of smoke from Moritz Krop's car. We saw that on the grid as well. That should be okay as he rams air through the air intake on that car, Ross.
He does indeed, yeah. Not the best start for Stefan Roll, but he managed to slide back into that second place position. Very, very lucky there. Almost as Sixter holds on to third place. Bock onto fourth. But it will be Masaj Minek that leads the way onto lap 2, leads the first lap here at the Hungarian Grand Prix here at GPVWC. Tom Stevens, meanwhile, losing places as Moritz Krop moves into fifth place. Does anybody look for a move down into the inside on board with Krop? No, he stays place. Stays Holt. Lewis Bickers having a look but decides not to make the move. So it's all action stations for the time being. But it will be Masaj Minek that leads the way on that opening lap. Stefan Rolt, very, very lucky though. Managed to get into that second place once again. After that, it wasn't the best start in the world for him. Just didn't quite get the traction down in that second phase. Didn't quite pull away as everybody else did after the start and dropping a few places. But he's into second now on that soft compounded tyre as the rest of the top 10 are on. And he's looking to move forward, I'm sure.
Now, what we actually saw into turn 1 that time around was Tomasz Volk getting past Lewis Bickers. He came up 8 positions on the opening lap of the race, did Tomasz Volk. And that's important because that's the fight for second in the drivers that didn't start on softs, if that makes sense. So it's not really second for anything, but it is still an important position strategically. And the leader of that bunch is Michi Hoyer, who got ahead of Lewis Bickers at the start. So Bickers has lost a few places in all of that. Started 11th down to P13. Michi Hoyer started about 16th, so he's gained quite a few places on the opening lap as well. His race will probably plateau a bit now because he's got to sit behind Matthias Moos and wait for the pit stages. Here's Daniel Brewer trying to make his way through the order. Once again, a much better racer than he is a qualifier. Usually starts quite a way down the field and then comes up through it in the races. And of course, his poor qualifying at Silverstone was as a result of a penalty, but even as such, I mean, he qualified about 17th or 18th on the grid today and hasn't quite been able to make up any positions just yet. Up in front, the Edge guys are starting to break away a little from Fabio Sixter, still not out of DRS range, and that's important because this is lap 3, so DRS will be available. But there's definitely more of a gap between Rot and Sixter than there is between the two Edge Esports drivers, who will not likely be switching positions or fighting each other at this stage in the race. There will probably be a good deal of camaraderie between the two of them. Sixter and Bock will now get the DRS for the first time in this race, and Ruhl is actually going to swap places with Winnick, isn't he? So Ruhl goes to the inside and takes the lead away. Now, whether that was team orders or just Ruhl deciding, well, I've got the run, you better not fend me off, we can gain some time here, I don't know, but whatever the case, the reigning champion Stefan Ruhl will now lead the race.
Yeah, I don't think that was I'm moving into the lead, we're going to have a fight. I think that was let's work together and not bother fighting each other. I've got the DRS, just let me through. I'm sure Masaj Minek probably syncing on the same page, is also quite a smart driver, as is Stefan Roll. So I think, not fighting there. Again, Minek led him through with very little resistance. So I think what that is both the drivers know that if they work together and just slipstream past each other with the DRS on that main straight, they can gain time on the drivers behind. Because, here, yes, Minek is fighting for a championship, but Edge Esports as well, they're fighting for a 1-2 here. They're currently in that 1-2 position. And realistically, the team doesn't really care who finishes in first and who finishes in second. It's only the drivers who really care about that one. It's only when a championship fight gets really into the nitty-gritty, gets really late on in the season, that you really start to worry about that. Minek has dropped back a bit here, so I don't think he'll be making a move as Roll sets the fastest lap of 1:17.772. But I'd like to think that if Munich does end up catching onto the back of Roll in the next few laps, that Roll would let him through with a similar panache, kind of just not fighting, letting him through. These two are going to work together until they no longer can just extend that gap, because their current goal is to secure that 1-2 for Edge Esports. Further back in the field, though, Thomas Vack in P12, he's picking up a bit of a fight against some of the soft-shod runners. Thomas Harvey, he's fallen to P11. Mitchy Hoyers works his way into P10 already, so a great opening few laps for Mitchy Hoyer, who is been improving race by race here in GPVWC. I mean, we know he's a well-established driver in other series, but it's taken him a bit of a time to adapt to this GPVWC field, but he's really starting to come into his own now. On board, though, with Fabio Sixter in P3 on his return to the Super League, and perhaps pressure being put on Massage Munich here, because Sixter is a lot closer to the second place driver than Munich is to his teammate in P1. So we come around the final corner now. Sorry, Caitlin. Sixter will have the DRS, so we'll have to wait and see what he's going to do down to turn 1.
Now, if the Edge Esports drivers were working together properly, I would expect Rolt would have backed off a bit there to give Maciej Winnick the DRS. Right now, he is an absolute sitting duck, with Fabio Sixter having the DRS and being faster than him down every straight. Winnick needs to make sure that he gets a good run. There are only 2 DRS zones on the track, and we've just had them, so for this lap he should be okay. But Sixter is right there, and that is a little nerve-wracking for Maciej Winnick now. Now, Royal. Oh, and Sixter has retired. So Sixter, as we feared, has a poor connection, and it looks as if it's already claimed him after just 5 laps of the race. Fabio Sixter was the top driver not in an Edge Esports car, and as quickly as he was up there, he has completely vanished. In fact, quicker.
Yeah, that's a shame. Seemingly an internet disconnect or something along those lines then for Sixter. Out of the race he goes. That promotes Yannick Bock to second. So yeah, big shame there. That's not what you want to see, but unfortunately that is sim racing. Sometimes you get these things. Sometimes it just isn't your night. And clearly for Sixter, not his night tonight here at the Hungaroring. Hopefully, if it is an internet disconnect, he's able to reconnect quickly. He will be able to rejoin in the next few laps and whack around at the back. He might be able to make up a few places here and there if he's really lucky. But yeah, that is a big shame. Running in P3 on his return, that was a very good qualifying, looking like a pretty good opening to the race, and then all taken away in an eye blink. That is a big shame there. But that's how it is sometimes. Looking further back, Kyoko Pekalalu, meanwhile, is putting the pressure on Philip Pushker as he fights for that P17 place. And I know I've said this before, but the new R Factor 2 update with the sparks, it does look really, really nice, doesn't it? I mean, the cars, the way that just the plank and the underboard, it just shoots up the sparks instead. It is really nice looking nowadays.
It does look good. I just hope it didn't contribute to Sixter's poor connection. But anyway, yeah, that's got to suck. I mean, his last 6 races have ended in DNF, and I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of those were due to connection issues. And I never understand how drivers like that even put up with it, even show up to races. I mean, it was a major factor in David Fleidock's retirement earlier this season, for example, how his internet, for some reason, just was not playing ball. Meanwhile, Moritz Kropper's got an excellent run on Yannick Bock here. This is for 3rd place now that Sixter is out, and he hasn't been able to get alongside him in the first DRS zone. The second DRS zone is right there, albeit after a very tight and slow corner. But Moritz there could be a real challenger for the podium in a little while. Of course, Toby Davis reminded us before this race that he does have a few tricks up his sleeve strategy-wise as well. So keep your eye on that portion of this field as he runs a little wide. He'd have got a little track limits warning for that, and I know that because I did that in the FS2 race, and ended up with a track limits penalty after doing it too many times. But anyway. So these drivers have got to be careful of that. The X of the S's is another place where you can absolutely pick up a track limits penalty. Right here, if you run too wide there, the curb, it treats your under tray as a skateboard, and you end up sliding over it and sliding wide. and if you go all four wheels over the white line, you tend to get a warning for that. And then after you go over it enough times, you end up with a track limits penalty. 3 seconds now is the lead, so Roth getting away from Winnick. And that's what I was going to say before the whole Sixter thing. For Roth, in his own self-interest, he's got to pull away from Winnick now, because if he's far enough ahead of this battle, then it becomes less of a team race, and more of a case of Roth being the number one driver at the team, and being able to dictate the race as he likes. And of course, if Winnick gets passed by Bock or whatever, then the team couldn't even ask Roth to give way if they tried. Now, Thomas Bock has just passed Thomas Harvey further back, and that's interesting considering their difference in strategies. But it looks as if Thomas ran slightly wide, had a big twitch midway through turn 2 there, so that's a change for 10th position in this race so far. And if you were wondering what happened to Germano Zapala after the first lap of the race, where we saw him without a front wing, he did make it back to the pits, but then immediately retired. So we have 2 DNFs from this race now. I had a look back at that incident for Zapala. It looks as if he made contact with Eris Masciuli, who himself made contact with Jeffrey Fournier and then spun around, and Zapala had nowhere to go, so a big shame there. And I've seen some damage on the back straight as well. Hygo Pooms just had a big crash, and there are other cars involved. Fournier is off the road. Valeriano is missing his front and rear, and Alessandro Quinte also only has 3 wheels right now. Canapino missing his front wing. There has been a big schmozzle down there. Now here is what happened. So I think Poom's going to lose it coming out of that corner. Oh, it's Quinte loses it and goes straight into Poom. Huge impact into the wall for both of them. And then Poom comes straight back into the road in front of, Canapino. Bad impact for him. And also, of course, Valeriano is now out of this race. Quinte out, Poom out, Canapino out, and Masciuli is in the pits. 4 cars involved in a mega shunt at the back of the circuit.
Yeah, that's a big accident there. Hygo Poom just unlucky, came back on and, chose the wrong way to go around Hygo Poom as he drifted, or around Alessandro Quinte rather, as he drifted back onto the circuit. And that's a big shame there as we lose a few drivers in that incident. But yeah, that's racing for you. Sometimes accidents are going to happen. Down to 22 drivers left in this race as we follow Yannick Bock around, who is slowly but surely closing the gap on Masej Munich. It is less than a second now. He does have the DRS down this front stretch, and Stefan Roll, he started to bolt up that front. The gap's now 3.6 seconds. I mean, you can still see him. We saw him in the last camera shot, but he's starting to book it out of there in this early stint. And this is Stefan Roll potentially kind of staking his claim for this race. He's not interested in team orders, if there are any. He just wants the win for his own accord, and that is potentially putting Masej Munich, who desperately needs the points for the World Championship, suddenly under threat from the now championship leader, Yannick Bock. Further back, we've got some moves being tried to be made anyway by Thomas Vac on Michi Hoyer. There's Michi Hoyer, who's now moved into P9, and his epic start continues up from P16. This is great stuff from the Burst Esport driver. But yeah, Yannick Bock suddenly, I don't think it's going to be long till he's starting to really apply pressure on Masej Munich.
Yeah, and this is effectively the championship leaders fight here, because Bock and Winnick are first and second, separated by just 10 points. It's interesting, actually, that Edge didn't try to get Roth to help Winnick here, because we're after the halfway point in the season, and Winnick here is certainly not out of the championship fight. Roth probably is. I think that, although as Thomas Schwab comes into the pits there from 10th, that's extremely early for a driver on the medium tyres. Is he setting up for a 4-stop, maybe? Anyway, carrying on with the point that I was just making. Matching Winnick not out of the championship fight. Roth probably is, because even though he can absolutely win races and he has the pace to do so, as Vox going to have to wait there, he found himself boxed up behind his teammate Daniel Stepkowski, and sorry, am I getting confused? Yeah, it was Stepkowski, wasn't it? So both of those drivers in super early there, and yeah, an interesting strategy there for both of the E-Team hard cars, who have also both gone on to hard tyres, ruining my 4-stop strategy idea. Okay, well, keep an eye on those two. They've got something up their sleeve here. and whether that's a miscommunication or anything, I don't know, but they came in very deliberately and for a reason. Now, 12 laps done, or nearly 12 laps done, and at the front it is Royal leading from Winnick and Yannick Bock now. Leon Bock, the winner of the last race, is in 6th position currently. And now we've got to keep our eyes open for some pit stops, because into the pits comes Moritz Kropp as well. Goodness, okay. This is not going how I expected it to. Stefan Rolt's in, sorry. So Rolt in from the lead.
Yeah, so it's not going to be long until we start seeing the rest of the cars come in as Rolt comes in. So Yannick takes the lead of the race for the time being. Yannick Bock in P2. There's Stefan Rolt. That's a pair of the hard tyres there. I'm just trying to mentally kind of calculate what's happened here. So Rolt's clearly gone quite hard in this early phase. I mean, we could tell anyway. He bolted away from the number 96. His teammate, is Moritz Kropp almost touching with Stepkowski there. Stepkowski really slamming the door on Kropp as he came out of the pits. Almost contact between the pair of them. But it's quite clear that Stefan Rolt's gone very, very hard in this early stint. So Munich and Bock, if they've been kind of running at a regular pace, they should be able to take it a few more laps before they need to come into the pits for a fresh set of boots. But yeah, Stefan Roll, that's interesting to see him come in so early, especially from the lead of the race. You don't typically see the leader come in first. They're more willing to kind of wait out and see what the rest of the grid does before they make their call. They have that advantage of the lead by being the leader. They don't need to kind of worry about who's in front of them. As we see there, Yannick Bock from P2 into the pit lane. So there we go, Yannick Bock, he comes in while Masej Munich stays out. So a split strategy once again at the front, maybe for a few laps, and this also gives us an opportunity to see what works better, the undercut or the overcut. Look for Stefan Roll in P15. Yannick Bock is fallen to P11 as he boxes his pit boxes right at the end of the pit lane, but I don't think it's going to be enough because Stefan Roll has just shot on past, and actually so has Stepkowski, I believe. Oh, he's down to 70, so Yannick Bock has actually lost a lot of time there. So it seems to me then that the earlier stop, the undercut, is more powerful. So Munich potentially in a bit of trouble here. Potentially in a bit of trouble if Bock can get a good outlap.
So not only has Kropp jumped Bock there, but Stepkowski's jumped them both. Crazy stuff there. Daniel Stepkowski, the fastest driver on the track right now. Now this strategy shouldn't be too surprising because of course the soft tyres were never going to last particularly long at this track. It is a high tyre wear circuit with a wide range of strategies available. And as a result, this is about when we would expect the soft tyre runners to come in, as Maciej Winnick is going to demonstrate. So in from the lead comes Maciej Winnick of Edge Esports, and Leon Bock comes in as well, as does Matthias Moos. The top three all in. Mcguire is going to lead the race on those medium tyres there. And another reason why it shouldn't be too surprising is because at a circuit like this, you do want to run quite hard tyres unless you're going for an insanely alternative strategy such as the four stop that I was mentioning. I expect that these drivers are going hard to the end now, so it's going to be a two-stop strategy with a flexible possibility of a three-stopper. And that's a tight pit exit with Matthias Moos and Thomas Harvey there over 18th position in the race. And Yannick Bock just overtook Moritz Kropp, didn't he? So Kropp has made a mistake at turn 2. Oh, he's had a half spin, hasn't he? So so Kropp he touched the back of Jeffrey Fournier's car, slid the car sideways, and now he's being overtaken by Maciej Winnick, who came up behind him. So Winnick has also been jumped by a bunch of cars here. He is now behind Yannick Bock. And Stepkowski has gained so much here. I don't quite understand how he's done that. But Stepkowski could be on for second overall in this net order. There's the replay of Kropp going into the back of Fournier and half spinning his car, being passed by two of his main rivals now. So through went Bock, through went Winnick. Those two have swapped positions. And Daniel Stepkowski has come out of nowhere. He is so fast at this point in the race. Into the pits now, Hoyer, Mcguire, Volburn and Shepherd. So Philip Pushke leads the race, closely followed by Jakub Lalu. Stefan Rohr is back up into third now, despite his relatively early pit stop. and Robin Panter separates him and Daniel Stepkowski. Out of the pits comes Mcguire, slots in nicely, although not much clean air for him or any of the drivers behind him, and they've all been massively jumped by the drivers around them as well. Not so much of a big deal for Mcguire due to his alternate strategy, but I feel like the drivers behind him will be a little disappointed there.
Yeah, perhaps just a bit. We'll have to wait and see. Stefan Roll in the net lead of this race. Philip Pushkin and Jukka Pekalalu in P1 and 2 yet to stop. Stepkowski, though, yeah, he's made a massive, massive jump there. So great stuff from him in P5. So, yeah, great stuff. Yeah, Maciej Munich has just not gone his way, has it? What a big shame there for the man in P2 in the championship, the long-time championship leader this year. Have to wait and see. With that being said, we are only on lap 16 of 70. It is a long, old race here at the Hungaroring. Still plenty of action to come your way. And, well, anything can happen. Rolt there, new fastest lap of the race. He seems absolutely determined to win this one, doesn't it? I mean, I know, again, it's only lap 17, but he's broken away at the start, took the lead, and now setting fastest lap after fastest lap. He seems like he's on a mission. Yet to take a race win this year is Stefan Roll after winning that championship last season.
He won Silverstone, sorry.
Oh, he did win Silverstone, didn't he? I do apologise. That race was so crazy, I forgot. But looking to take his second race win this year, rather, should I say. But yeah, I mean, he has had a good run of form recently. I mean, it didn't get off to the best start. He's had a couple of just outside the podium, of course, that win at Silverstone as well. Now looking to add a second win to the pile. Yeah, you know, Stefan Roll, reigning champion from last season. This is a strong performance from him already. Let's see what he can do moving on further into the race.
And the gap between him and Stepkowski is about 5 seconds right now, although they do have a car between them. Where did Stepkowski start on this grid? It was P20 or something.
Yeah, he's come a long way.
Stepkowski himself, he definitely pitted, because we saw him in the pits. He held up his teammate Tomasz Vok. Okay, he started 8th, so he did actually improve at the end of the qualifying session. Thank you, Szymon. Even so, still he's come a long way up the field. Robin Panter now into the pit lane. But yeah, I'm a little confused by how Stepkowski was able to jump so many cars there. I think it may just have been superior pace. He was so quick at that time, running maybe a second a lap faster than some of his opponents. Stefan Rolt has just set the first lap of the race himself, despite being on hard tyres. That, of course, is because he's had clean air for the first time in a while. Stavros Mercedes being passed there by a couple of cars. He's still yet to stop. Leon Bok goes through. A little while ago, I watched him being passed by some of the other drivers who started on softs. Tomasz Vok now going through on the outside as well. Mercedes losing time hand over fist as we talk. And this is going to be one of those races where we really can't talk about a net order too much, because the race is going to slap us in the face several more times, like it has done with the whole Daniel Stepkowski shaped spanner in the works, I'm sure. There is Mercedes, probably about to lose another place to Matthias Moos. Moos still gaining places from his qualifying position. And there you see the number of stops drivers have made. Still Pushke, Lalu, Fournier and Mercedes yet to make their own pit stops. Fournier gaining some places since his start from the back of the grid. Of course, he's already got past Stavros Mercedes and will probably come out ahead of a few other drivers as well. But yes, the race continues. Philip Pushke can stay out basically as long as he likes here, because he is on the hard tyre, as is Jukka Lalu, and they started on said tyre, so they're a little more flexible than some of the drivers who had softer rubber.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, that hard rubber means you can run a little bit longer for your pit stoppers. There we see, banging wheels. Daniel Brewer and Thomas Harvey. Daniel Brewer manages to squeeze through around the outside, and following him as well, Lewis Bickers. That could have been a big accident there as they came together. I'm going to see a replay here. So, on board with Daniel Brewer as we head down into what is officially turn 3, because that kink is classed as turn 2. Starts up inside. Is there already contact between the pair of them, and they're banging wheels as well on the exit of the corner, so getting a bit physical. The two drivers out there. Just rubbing elbows, shoving it out a bit, and then Lewis Bickers sees the gap, follows through as well. Does he make it through? Yes, he made contact. Oh,
No, don't worry.
That's a moment. That's the game having a moment. I got very, very confused then. So Lewis Bickers didn't quite make it through in the end after they did make contact. But yeah, that's just the game having a moment, if you will excuse. But yeah, so some very tight racing there. But up the front, as we were saying, Filip Puška and Jukka-Pekka Laulu behind as well. They're on that hard compound tire. It provides less immediate grip. It isn't as quick as the soft tire, but it can run a lot longer. So you don't have to come into the pits as quickly. That being said, though, Stefan Roll's starting to close down on that fresher rubber. So it's not going to be long, I don't think, until Stefan Roll finding his way further up the podium.
Indeed. I'm really not sure why we have Valeriano still out there on the Mercedes. I don't know why I said that. Valeriano's out of the race already. Why we still have Mercedes out there on the medium tyres. He's losing time hand over fist, and he's the only driver who starts on the medium tyres still out there. He had cars going either side of him into turn 4 that last time around, and when that happens, you know it's time to come in. He was passed into and out of the chicane, and Stefan Roll has now got past Jukka-Pekka Laulu, so didn't even have to wait for Laulu to come into the pits. He's made the move already, and that has given him a big boost in this race. Tom Stevens now making his way up to P8 ahead of Moritz Kropp. So those two, the two Nocturne drivers from FS1 swapping places, of course driving for different teams today in the main Superleague Championship, and Tom Stevens getting through, started 2 places ahead of him in qualifying. Then Moritz, of course, got the jump at the start, but he's made a couple of mistakes the last few laps, and now Tom Stevens is back in front. Now, can Stefan Roll pass Filip Puška on the road just to rub in how fast he is today? Or will Filip come into the pits before he gets a chance to? It doesn't really matter, although Roll will be hoping Filip pulls into the pits as soon as possible, because, of course, then he will have clean air.
Yep, absolutely. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens over the remaining course there. Oh, Filip Puška getting very sideways there, just pushing a bit too hard. Over the edge of the corner, coming through the penultimate hairpin. As Jukka-Pekka Laulu still yet to box. I mean, I'm sure that Puška and Laulu know that fighting Roll isn't their race. There's little point in, kind of fighting for these positions that they're currently in. They're only there because they haven't boxed yet. They know that this isn't their true race pace. Their true race pace perhaps a little bit further back. So they won't be fighting Roll as he comes to, I'm sure, further back, though. Jeffrey Fournier will be fighting with Tom Stevens as he forces his way, or tries to force his way around the outside, but was unable to make the gap appear, but was almost in front, coming through turn 1. But Jeffrey Fournier in the Scuderia Basilia still just about able to hold on, but it's not quite appeared just yet for Thomas Stevens. But wow, that was very, very close indeed. Jeffrey Fournier, great job fighting back for that P7 position. Further back as well, Moritz Kropp, he's looking to get involved, and Leon Bock, your previous race winner as well, in that P10 position. So it's all to play for here on lap 22 of the Hungarian Grand Prix in GPVWC, if you'll excuse me there. But it is Jeffrey Fournier holding on to that P7 position just about for the time being, though, because Tom Stevens, he's all there, looking to attack, looking to force his way further up the grid. And as we look at this battle then, Jeffrey Fournier, he's got this little bit of a train forming behind him. I'm not sure what's going on. We'll go on board Tom Stevens as he comes onto the main straight now. Should get DRS. Jeffrey Fournier defending to the inside all the way to the wall, but Tom Stevens moves to the outside. Who's on the brakes later? It's going to be side by side once again through turn 1. Jeffrey Fournier looks like he's going to hold on, but they're still side by side into turn 3. Oh, banging wheels through the left-hander. Stevens forces his way through. Kropp tries to follow, but unable to do so. So Stevens gets through. Fournier drops down to P7, or P8 rather, and Kropp manages to hold on. They don't come together in P8 after nearly having contact. But wow, what a great move there from Tom Stevens. Wheel banging all the way down to turn 3. And then just holding that inside line, forcing his way through. And now I'm sure he'll be sending his sights forward. And another driver who'll be setting their sights forward. Stefan Rolt, reigning champion. And in the net lead, soon to be in the actual lead, I'm sure, on that fresh rubber compared to Filip Puška, who's yet to fit. And Filip Puška, of course, knows this isn't his fight, doesn't put up a fight, and it is Stefan Rolt back to the lead of the race.
So Stefan does lead overall now. Now what you saw as Winnick had a look at that Bock there, so he's still not done with Yannick Bock in this one. But what you saw before, and the reason that Fournier was holding up Tom Stevens and a bunch of other cars, is that Fournier is also yet to stop, although you'd be forgiven for not knowing that with the amount that Fournier was defending that position. Jeffrey did not want to let Tom Stevens through, even though he probably was not in the same race. Even, just the same as Filip Puška knew he wasn't in Stefan Rolt's race. Thomas Harvey there, under pressure from Adam Mcguire, who almost ran over and out of the road. As Mercedes now sets the fastest lap. Yeah, see what new tyres will do for you, Stefan. Stavros, sorry. Jolly good. Returns to the road in P22 in this race, which is actually the last of the runners now because we've had so much attrition so far. Six retirements, and they all came in the first 10 laps of this race, which shows you just how difficult it is to find space in the early stages around a track like this. And also, of course, we had a couple of we had a disconnection issue with Fabio Sixter. Back to the race. Stefan Rolt has already built up a lead of 2 seconds now over Filip Puška. Daniel Stepkovski is up to P3 ahead of Jakub Elali. That happened relatively recently. Stepkovski will now be catching Filip Puška. And there is Moritz Kropp side by side with Jeffrey Fournier. And the longer he spends behind him, the more time he will be losing to Tom Stevens up ahead. Switchback maneuver, touches him again. And that's how he had his half spin before. Careful, Moritz. And we'll have to drop back on the exit as well. So Jeffrey Fournier in a similar position to the one we saw Puška in, but treating it very, very differently.
Absolutely. These two pushing it very, very hard. And Mercedes there, fastest lap of the race. So he's in P22. Or I think it was just Mercedes who I just saw there anyway. So yeah. Great stuff from him. He has just come into the pits, of course. But yeah, great lap from him there. Meanwhile, as we look at Adam Mcguire on Thomas Harvey, Yannick Volburn as well behind. So it's all very, very close as well. We're kind of seeing these kind of groups of 4 or 5 cars forming as Puška finally comes into the pits on lap 26. So he's done a great job on that set of tyres there to push them that far. And there we go.
So Stepkovski is second now. Yannick Bock is third. Close though with Maciej Winnick. We've also had another retirement, I'm afraid. Aras Masciuli has pulled to the side of the road and given up. Jakub Elali has been into the pits as well. He's now down to P20. There is Puška on pit exit. He had his time in the sun, and it was great to see him doing so out there in P1. He's now down in P17. But if we get another pit window like that, he may have his time in the sun again. Probably not now, because Stefan Rolt will be a whole pit stop ahead of him. But no matter what, he can rightfully say that he led some laps at the Hungaroring. Jeffrey Fournier now still has Moritz Kropp behind him. Wow, so Kropp was not able to get past him that last time around, and that's backed him up to Leon Bock, Thomas Schwartz, Matthias Moos, and a bunch of other drivers that he is genuinely fighting here. Jeffrey Fournier may not really be in this fight, but he is certainly influencing it, throwing a real spanner in the works, and that's always good to see as well. A very different style of racer to some of the others out there is Jeffrey Fournier, and now he comes into the pits, and Moritz will be huffing and heaving like, what was that all for? Now away he goes, he has some clean air, but he also is towing Leon Bock with him. DRS is active, and there won't be any overtake. Oh, there will be, look at this, Leon Bock takes a look, and up the inside he goes, and Leon Bock is able to pass Moritz Kropp as a result of being backed up by Jeffrey Fournier. Leon gets 6th place, And Moritz will not be Jeffrey Fournier's best, or Jeffrey will not be Moritz Krop's best friend right now, as Tomasz Vok might be about to pass him as well. He's taking a look to the outside. Turn 4, this is a dangerous corner to go double stacked into, but Tomasz Vok goes right around the outside with one of the moves of the race so far. Great stuff.
Yeah, what a great move that was, moving through there. Great stuff to take that position. So there we go then, moving places, moving up the field, the front runners once again. Only on lap 27 to 70, so still a long way to go. Although we are approaching the halfway distance, of course, lap 35. If you can do maths, I can't. I'm sure we've all heard me do this monologue before about my terrible mathematical abilities. But yeah, so it's not far off halfway. This is still early in this race, and that is Moritz Krop diving into the pits now. So the hard shod runners, they're kind of those still lagging on, still on the track, coming in now for their second stint, their first pit stops. And Moritz Krop, the latest to dive in. And we'll see what
Krop
tyres he's in a moment.
There. Krop did seem to be struggling there, didn't he? Sorry, he was passed around the outside by Tomasz Vok, who incidentally is now up 13 positions from his starting place. Moritz escapes the pit lane. He didn't do as well in that second stint as he did in the first stint, and he's going to find himself out behind his good old friend Jeffrey Fournier. Good stuff. Jeffrey fends him off. These two both pitting in quick succession, and due to their different strategies, due to the fact that Jeffrey has made one more pit stop than Moritz now finds himself with a big green car right in front of him. That strategy does not appear to have worked out for Moritz there. Now, if Moritz and Tom are on a similar strategy here, Tom and Stevens that is, and they might be because of course these two both nocturne drivers, both working very closely with Toby Davis, then it looks as if it's working better for Tom Stevens. He will definitely jump, or will definitely come out well ahead of Jeffrey Fournier when he makes his stop, and probably some of the other drivers ahead of them as well, with the amount of ground that he made up in that one. Vok has now come into the pits himself, so Tomasz Vok, who gained so many places in that last stint, will now lose all of those places, but will be able to gain them back again on his fresh tyres, I expect. He goes on to another set of hard tyres. And the fact that drivers are making their second stops already in this race, and that the hard tyres has not taken them a decent way into this, shows that 3 stops are absolutely still viable and probably probable.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, we were expecting a 2-stopper, maybe a 3-stopper. Seems like 3-stopper, potentially a 4-stopper for a few drivers is the way forward. Well, 4-stopper maybe might be a bit ambitious, but yeah, 3-stopper seems to be the one to go on, which is so different from what we're used to here at GPVWC. We're so used to 1-stoppers, occasionally a 2-stopper if someone's trying to throw the boat out. So yeah, all up in the air in the Hungaroring, all to play for. And Masej Minek is a driver who is looking to, take that play and turn it on its head, because ahead of him is his championship rival and current championship leader, Yannick Bock. And there is not much separating them now. And as we can see on the left-hand side of the screen, almost every driver out there on that hard compounder tyre, all bar one in Mercedes, with 21 runners left, are on the hards. So it's essentially a spec series at this point. Everyone's on the same tyre, off you go, have fun. And Masej Minek, he's closed into Yannick Bock across this stint and is now looking to make the move. He's currently 10 points behind the championship, looking to close that gap, if only slightly. But it's only lap 30 of 70, still 40 laps left in this event. And Minek, just sitting pretty behind there at the moment. I'm sure he's just waiting for the DRS down that front straight. It is a very tricky track to overtake here at the Hungaroring. Lots of medium speed corners, medium head braking zones. It's not a very wide track either, so if you're going to commit, you've got to be right alongside, got to be proper, but it's hard to follow around here as well. So really the most kind of opportune overtaking spot is right here, DRS into turn 1 down the main straight. Can Mienek pull off a late dive? He's going to. Can he get late enough for the brakes? Oh, Bock slams the door and they actually make contact. And that forces Bock out wide as a result. And Mienek, who held firm, manages to squeeze by, and I think that's fair as well, because in my eyes that was very much Bock who chopped across there and got the wobble on. Mienek managed to get away with very little damage, it would seem, and slides by onto P3. Let's ride on board with Matej Mienek there as he slid into the podium places. He moves up the inside on the brakes lane. There is ever so slight contact that just forces Bock out wide. It was not quite wheel to wheel, wheel to end plate. In real life, that would have been a puncture for Yannick Bock. But Mienek got pretty lucky there. It didn't upset the car, didn't unsettle him at all. Just able to continue on forwards. And as Bock washed out, Mienek lucked in and slid into P3.
Now that kind of incident is the most controversial in racing because there is a real grey area there. Mathieu will be able to argue that he had an overlap that he gained in the braking zone, and that Yannick had a reasonable responsibility to assume that he was going to attempt an overtake. And sure, you know, he's absolutely right there. Whereas Yannick is going to argue that he did not have his wheel anywhere near far enough alongside him, and that he was coming from too far back. And sure, again, Mathieu only had his front wheel about halfway along the rear wheel of Yannick Bock's car, so both of them have a point there, and it could very much go either way, or it could be seen as a racing incident. So we are not going to give a definite conclusion on that one, and for now, Mathieu Mienek is fairly in third position there. Keep your eyes on that fight though, that could get even more tasty by the end of this race. Now, another thing to consider is that Moritz Kropp is one of only 3 drivers to have come in for his second stop so far. Now, we knew that Moritz was likely to do more stops than most other drivers because he did so in the FS1 race. If that is the case, then there is a chance the hard tyres can run for longer than we expected and longer than we've seen so far, in which case some of these front runners are likely to still end up going for the 2-stop strategy. We have also had it pointed out in the chat that Rourke could probably make a 3-stop work at this point, and he probably could. I'm not sure if he will at this point. I think he's probably toying with the idea in his brain, and to be truly comfortable to do so, he'll have to gain a little more time over Daniel Stepkowski here. But as there's a move in the background going on. But yes, I think 2-stoppers are just as viable as 3-stoppers at this point in time. That was Philip Pushke there passing Chris Shepherd. Fantastic. So Pushke here, actually not that far down the net order, is he? It's difficult to tell what the net order is with some of the drivers 2-stopping. Of course, Pushke's teammate Moritz Kropp has made one more pit stop than him and therefore is behind him right now. But I mean, they're both going to have to make another stop in this race. It's definitely looking better for Pushke at this point in time than it was at the start, and it's definitely looking worse, and a lot worse for Moritz Kropp, I would say. Keep your eye on it though. Strategy is so unpredictable with GPVWC Super League, and here at Hungaroring, you've really got to have your brain turned on, whether you're a driver or whether you're just spectating like we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, use more than 2 brain cells is the aim of the game here. And I know I don't have much more than those, so I'm trying my best, I do promise you. But it's coming up to the halfway point now in this race. And if you've just joined us or you've not been watching for long, hello and welcome to the Hungaroring, or the virtual Hungaroring anyway, and to the Super League of Grand Prix Virtual World Championship here, GPVWC. And if you haven't already, do not be afraid to like, share, subscribe, follow, and all of the above on the stream. It really does help out everybody here at the organisation. And of course, make sure you keep chatting away in the chat. Caitlin always keeps a keen eye on what you guys are saying. Some of you might have inside information that we're not aware of, or some of you might just, you know, want to share your opinion of what's going on. And as I said, Caitlin always keeps a keen eye on what you guys want to say and is always happy to answer any questions, so keep doing that. And it's a pleasure to bring you along here to the Super League, the top league that the GPVWC organisation runs. And it's, well, we're coming into crunch time now here in the season. Not many races to go, only 6 races to go then after this one, which feels a bit weird because Silverstone was the halfway point in the championship, and now we're already discussing the end of the season. Such is the case when you have 16 rounds. But Stefan Rolt, your reigning champion, who's not really in championship contention this season, currently with a dominant lead here at the Hungarian, 6.2 seconds over Daniel Stepkowski, who's strategied his way into that second place. Masej Minek and Yannick Bock, they're P3 and P4, who are the 2 championship contenders, it would seem, this season. Bock currently 10 points to the good, rather, of Masej Minek, after a very, very strong run of form from Monaco to Austria last round, where he took 4 consecutive podiums. Well, the Hungarian really could be going anyone's way at the moment. Again, only halfway in the race, and strategy has gone so many places. And of course, again, if you're not familiar with GPVWC and you fancy, you know, getting joined in, of course, head to the website and then head to the Discord, gpvwc.com, and then you can find the Discord through there, where you'll find out how to get involved. We run 5 championships here. There's lots of activities to get involved in. This is just the top series that we run. We run so many, and there's still plenty of rounds left in the season as well. We're going to Belgium, Italy, Singapore, Japan, Mexico, and Brazil. So lots of opportunities to get involved and have some fun. And, well, yeah, we don't bite. And even if you don't fancy getting involved and just want to come along and chill out, we're all nice enough people. You can get to reach some sim racing superstars, some of the best in our Factor 2 single-seater racing, which is, well, the best of the best racers and the best of the best racing, which is what we're seeing right now. Filip Puška on that alternate strategy in P12, currently putting the pressure on Yannick Volburn, who is currently putting the pressure on his teammate, Thomas Harvey. Harvey, who's had a pretty strong race so far, currently running in P10, just inside the top 10, obviously. But he's been kind of up and down a few places. Puška was running in the lead at one point thanks to that alternate strategy. But obviously he knew it wasn't his fight, let it roll straight through when he eventually caught onto the back of him. Now he's in P12 and looking to move forward. He'll be a driver to keep an eye on as the race gets into its final stages, because, you know, that strategy, we'll have to see where it came from. It escapes me right now where he qualified exactly, but it, you know, I believe it was kind of 15th, 16th-ish off the top of my head. I may be mistaken.
Who are you talking about, Ross?
Filip Puška.
14th, I believe.
14th, yeah, so it's kind of in the right region. P14, we believe. And he's worked his way up to P12 on strategy alone already, and some, you know, strong laps. And, you know, with everyone else coming into the pits with him on an alternate strategy, I think that he's going to be a really an interesting one to watch and where he can get to late in the race. But, of course, that front-running battle as well. Rolt, Stepkowski, Mionek, Bock, Tom Stevens as well, I think you can throw into the mixer. There's a lot of drivers up the front who really could be in an interesting position come lap 70 and the checkered flag. So we're going to have to wait and see. But for now it is Rolt from Stepkowski, from Mionek, from Bock, from Stevens, from the other Bock, Liam, from Matthias Moose, Mitchy Hoyer in P8, and Adam Mcguire and Tom Harvey in P10. Mitchy Hoyer as well is another driver I just want to shout out who's had a great performance so far. Mitchy, it's not quite been his year so far. You know, we know he's a well-established driver. And we know he's a very, very quick driver, but this year so far it just hasn't quite gone his way. A few dud results, a few DNFs here and there. Burst esports in general just haven't been on the ball. But if you'll look, excuse me there. And yeah, it's been a great run from Mitchy Hoyer this round, from P16 to P8. He's been absolutely flying so far. I'm really excited to see what he can do moving forward.
So we're over halfway through this race now. I think it's Stefan Rolt's race to lose, because he's far enough ahead of the drivers on alternate strategies that I think he's got this one, unless, of course, he makes any mistakes or gets caught up in traffic or anything along those lines. Still one pit stop to go for the majority of these cars, maybe more, although at this stage I'm definitely expecting the leaders to be on 2-stop strategies. I got a bit ahead of myself earlier when I said that 3 stops were probably probable. Firstly, because that isn't really a good phrase. The probably is a bit redundant in that one. And secondly, of course, because I noticed 2 or 3 drivers coming in for their second stops really early, and I thought it was on, but the others have not followed them in. So it looks as if it will still be a 2-stop strategy for the majority of the drivers currently out in front in this race. There is Lewis Bickers fighting with Daniel Brewer now. Bickers has been losing a few places in the last few laps. I recently watched him get passed by Jukka-Pekka Lalu down into turn 1. So Tomasz Wach has obviously got through in the meantime. A couple of drivers on 2 stops there. So Stefan Roll is leading, followed by Daniel Stepkowski, the gap about 7 seconds. And it's Maciej Winnick who is catching Stepkowski. Definitely the fight still on for P2. Yannick Bock coming 2. Then Tom Stevens pretty much, well, he was on his own, but Leon Bock has been catching him these last few laps as well. Then Matthias Moos and Michi Hoyer, Adam Mcguire and Thomas Harvey, the top 10. Then Jonas Vorburn, Philip Pushke, Chris Shepherd, Robin Panzer and Jukka-Pekka Lalu. And as it stands, I think the most important things to watch are, first of all, that battle for second and the gap coming down. And then secondly, of course, the further battles further down in the top 10. Stevens is being reeled in by Leon Bock as we speak. And then, of course, Moose, Hoyer, Mcguire are all very, very close for 7th, 8th and 9th as well. And Thomas Harvey has a few cars on his tail in P10, including his teammate, Jonas Vorburn. And that's what we're looking at right now. Probably no team orders for those two. They're a little too far down at the order to be thinking about that too much, although they would love a top 10 finish or two today. But we've got 31 more laps, 31 more laps in order for them to figure that all out in. So what's going to happen out in front in this remaining 3/7 of the race, I suppose you could say, and what is going to be the outcome?
Absolutely. So we've got a long while left to run in this race. And, well, it's all to play for. Lots of drivers in contention for some very, very good results. Leon Bock looking like he wants to get through. Tom Stevens as well. Does he pull to the inside? Thinks about it, but no. Doesn't quite go this time. Leon Bock, of course, now a race winner this season after taking that victory last time out at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Had a few podiums along the way as well, but you know, I think he's been waiting a long time for that, especially when you consider his brother Yannick, you know, in the lead of the championship at the moment. I think Leon was ready to take some silverware, some glory, and finally taking that first win this season for Evolution Motorsports, who have been very, very strong as an organisation this year. They've been a very strong team, always in contention for podiums and race wins, be it Leon or Yannick at the wheel. And they've been a really, really strong driver pairing. And it's an impressive display, actually, because I know I certainly can drive with my brother and be that competitive either, let alone wanting to crash him out of the track for being annoying. So it is really impressive as we hit 30 laps remaining on the lap counter. As you can tell, in the top left, there's Stefan Roll in the pits. Okay, so Steck can stop, and there goes Thomas Stevens as well. So a few of the front runners boxing for their second pit stops. Okay, so suddenly we weren't expecting that, but Stefan Roll in from the lead.
No, this was about the time it was going to happen. He's being passed just by Matthias Moos. Oh, that's close on the pit exit. He won't want to give this up, because the more track position he loses, the less clean air he gets. He loses it. So through goes Matthias Moos. He gets the switchback, and Stefan Roll uses the clean tyres to get straight back underneath him. Good stuff there for Stefan, and he's now behind Leon Bock. Now, Leon, did he act as a bit of a pawn here and hold up Stefan Roll to try to gain some positions for Yannick Bock? I'm not sure it's going to be worth it, really, because there was such a big difference between the two of them, such a big gap in this race. Stefan isn't really racing Yannick in this one, despite the fact they are big rivals. Down the straight they go, and Leon will obviously have much older tyres than Stefan and will be thinking about his own imminent pit stop. Maciej Winnick comes in, so Winnick comes in. Daniel Stepkowski, as he was before, leading the race. And now it's all about how quickly Stefan can get past Leon Bock. He's got the slipstream and the DRS, and he'll get another good dose of DRS on the next straight. Maciej Out of the pits now. Where does he come out? Just behind Philip Pushke. I don't think he's been jumped by anyone significant there who is racing with in terms of strategy. Philip himself in a ding-dong scrap with Yannis Wolburn as we talk. And the fastest driver on track is now Daniel Brewer, setting up for his pit stop. First driver into the 116s. Very nice from Daniel Brewer, who, as I said before, much better in a race than he is in qualifying. Less than 3 seconds is the gap for the lead between Stepkowski and Bock, although both of those two are expected to pit, as is the other Bock, Leon in third place. And Stefan Ruhl is losing time to Leon Bock as we talk, but how much time and how close to him will Daniel Stepkowski be after all of this? Well, we're about to find out because Stepkowski's in the pits for us.
He does indeed. So Daniel Stepkowski pits after that strategy gets him up into those kind of second place position. The E-Team hard driver brings it in and has to actually reverse a little bit. So overshot his pit box, costing him a few tenths of a second, but comes out. Looks like a pretty clean stop.
Takes a look at Bock. Oh, has to back out of that one. That was very close down into turn one. But yes, that's pretty much got rid of any time that Daniel would have gained already on Ruhl as a result of Ruhl being held up by Leon. He may gain it back, but it really does depend on how long Stefan Ruhl is stuck there. And actually, Mwinek jumped Stepkowski. So Mwinek has jumped Stepkowski, and once again, it's looking like it might end up being an edgy Sports 1-2. There's 2 seconds between them. I wasn't even looking for Mwinek because he was already gone. So Maciej Mwinek up into what is currently 5th place in this race, but he is now once again ahead of Stepkowski, who jumped him in the first pit window. And it's ironic that they've swapped places twice in this race without ever once going side by side.
Yeah, so it's all a change of foot here at the Hungaroring. Lots of drivers after this second phase, their pit stops, suddenly finding themselves not where they expect they would be, and that's what happens when everyone else on the grid is also trying to pull strategy games. It's not just you. It's almost like there's something like 30 other drivers occasionally on the grid. All of whom are very, very fast and very, very intelligent and have very strong teams behind them who understand how strategy works. But yeah, this all change of foot. Daniel Brewer at P9. Leon Bock now comes into the pit. So it's Yannick from Stefan Ruhl out the front. Yannick yet to pits. Philip Pushkin P3 from Maciej Mwinek in P4. Manek. Leon even, I assume, will go onto the hards once again. Yes, he does. So Leon Bock, not the fastest stop. He bringing it down to P12. Can he hold on to B12 from Tyus Moose? Yes, he can. Of course, he's got to stay in front now, but now he's got the fresh rubber. He should be okay. But yeah, up the front, yeah, it's all change.
Sorry, yeah, I think he lost a bit more time to Tom Stevens there. He's now 3 seconds back from the Adonis Engineering driver. But yeah, Leon Bock, a relatively straightforward pit stop, at least more straightforward than Stepkowski's was. And yeah, sorry, I really should have been looking for Mwinek when Stepkowski came out the pits, because, of course, Stepkowski had to reverse into his pit stall, and that is probably what's cost Stepkowski that second place in the net order there, and it's going to change the whole complexion of the race. So, yeah, that's the important thing that has just happened out on track. I saw a brief flicker of yellow, but I think it's okay. It's actually been a relatively clean race despite the relatively high attrition, because a lot of that attrition has come from just one accident that we saw taking place further back and taking out a bunch of the drivers who weren't running in the points positions. Now there is Philip Pushke in third position once again, but this time defending from Maciej Mwinek, and Maciej, on much fresher tyres, will go through pretty quickly. And this is once again going to ignite the Mwinek-Stepkowski fight any second now. And that will turn out to be the fight for the podium by the looks of things, or the fight for the second step on the podium. Stepkowski's got a gain. Philip is losing time, but not that much time. Stepkowski would have been hoping for more. And we have 25 laps left in this race now. The gap for the lead, 10 seconds, but it's coming down between Bock, who is yet to stop for the second time, and Stefan Ruhl. Of course, theoretically, Yannick could just run to the end, but realistically he won't, Stefan Roll will take the lead straight back again. It's amazing to think, actually, that Filip Puške is genuinely only 15 seconds behind Yannick Bock in this race. It shows you, first of all, how close the field is, and second of all, how good Filip Puške has been doing. He's now going to be passed by Maciej Munich, but if he doesn't put up a fight, he won't lose too much time. Maciej goes through and reclaims that podium position, so both the Edge esports cars back into the podium places and on course for a 1-2.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see what is going to happen. But yeah, it's all to play for. 25 laps left on the clock, or on the ticker rather, and yeah, it's all very, very interesting. I mean, you know, there's a few drivers we can go, you know, you're probably going to finish here, but you know, throughout the field there's a lot of drivers who we don't really know where they're going to finish, because everyone's, for the vast majority of drivers, to be honest, have been having a good race. You know, they've been putting in a strong performance and just been having a good run overall. So it's interesting to see, and it'll be interesting to see what happens over the remaining 25 tours, as we're currently following round Dan Brewer in P8. That's the leader then. Yannick Bock comes in, so Stefan Roll will retake the lead. As expected, but Yannick Bock comes in. So where does Yannick Bock come out in relation to Maciej Munich? Maciej Munich then goes through. Oh dear. Yannick Bock down to P5. Yannick Bock down to P6. Yannick Bock down to P7. That, I think it's safe to say, has not gone to plan.
Yeah, so Yannick there, out behind Daniel Brewer. Now Brewer's pitted once, I think. So he shouldn't be. Has he pitted twice now? Yeah, I'm just checking the times. Could you show us the pit graphic there quickly, Szymon, if it's all possible? He has indeed. So yeah, Yannick has genuinely been jumped there by Daniel Brewer, who started a long way down on the grid. We already knew that Munich and Stepkowski would be ahead of Yannick Bock, but not quite by that much. So yeah, that's a bit of a change there in this race. Jakub Ekalali still in and amongst them. I think Yannick maybe left out a little too late. Now, one thing I've been noticing in this race so far is that there's been a real cliff towards the end of the drivers' stints, where if they've stayed out a bit too long, they have absolutely dropped off. That's what we saw happening earlier to Moritz Krop, as we're about to see Stepkowski making a move on Filip Puške to get up into that third position, and through he goes, relatively straightforward, good to see. And yes, that's also what we saw earlier with Stavros Muzeidis on his medium tyres. So I wonder if Yannick just hit that, and I wonder if that's going to come into play towards the very end of this race as well, as drivers try to stick their cars out for the final few laps of this race on what by then will be quite worn tyres. 5.5 seconds is the gap for the lead, so that's come down since the last time I looked between Roll and Munich, and it appears to be coming down almost visually, actually. That's interesting. Still quite a big gap though, so no need to panic just yet. And then, of course, it's still Daniel Stepkowski in third position. And behind them, it's a complete toss-up, really. Yeah, I think you've put it absolutely correctly there. No one really knows what's going to happen further back. So we'll have to wait and see. That was Geoffrey Fournier is having some real lag issues here. It was Geoffrey Fournier. Yeah, that's a bit strange. Jumping all over the place. Sorry, he's still running, but yeah, he was jumping all over the place on multiple corners in that sector. Anyway, into the pits now comes Daniel Brewer. So the reason he did jump Yannick Bock is because he was on a 3-stop strategy. And, yes, of course, no, I remember him having his second stop because he was the third person to do that after Moritz Krop and Tomasz Vok. And talking of Krop there, he's just been passed by Tom Stevens again. But yeah, so I should have remembered that. Brewer was on a 3-stop strategy, and as a result, it wasn't quite as bad as we thought for Yannick Bock. There, slight contact between Michi Hoyer and Adam... who's that? Yeah, that is Adam Mcguire. So... it's Matthias Moose. Matthias Moose. Mcguire is right behind them, isn't he? So that's the fight for 11th, 12th and 13th. And they all managed to keep their wings attached somehow. Yeah, very lucky there. Michi Hoyer, who's had a very good race so far, shown some really strong
strong pace and some strong overtaking skills that we all know him too well for. Yeah, getting a little bit too personal, shall we say, with the Mcguire Smooths. Very lucky the pair of them didn't come off worse for wear. Seems to be all okay. But it's cost Mitchie a little bit of time, and now he's having to defend potentially from Adam Mcguire behind. 20 odd laps left to go. And as the race starts to draw into its closing phases, you know, we're going to be start seeing drivers we're going to be seeing who's on the 3-stop, obviously, for a starter, who's going to be, you know, diving into the pits one last final time. Moritz Krop is one of them. Perfect example. Thank you very much, Moritz. But yeah, there's a few drivers out there who are kind of yet to reveal their hand. Yet to reveal what their strategy is, but as well, a few drivers who I think are just leaving a little bit extra in the tank, just waiting for the race to kind of reach a crucial point, at which point they kind of turn it up and deliver what they have. Oh, Krop nearly spinning out of the pit lane. That's would be a bit embarrassing, but he managed to hold it. Just cold tires on the brakes, easily done on the dirty side of the track as well. But yeah, so a few drivers still yet to reveal their hand.
Sorry, Pushka's lost.
Yeah, Pushka. Yeah,
he's hit the wall somewhere. So Filip Pushka, who we've been praising for having his best race of the season, has lost both his wings somewhere and is dropping like a stone. And what's actually happened? Oh, he's hit the sausage curb. There's been a lot of talk recently about how sausage curbs launch cars into the air, and Filip Pushka will be jumping on that #ban sausage curbs train as quickly as he can, because that was absolutely him being caught out by a sausage curb and launched into the wall. Look at that. Awful stuff. A slight lapse in judgment, but a big hit, and he's going to have a lengthy stop as a result of that. Meanwhile, Maciej Winnick is really catching Stefan Roll. Remember when I said the gap was 5 seconds? It's now all the way down to 4 seconds, and we still have about 20 laps left in this race. This is still potentially on. I just don't quite know what they're going to say to each other and what their team might be saying right now. Mitchie Hoyer fighting with Adam Mcguire there. That's over 10th position in this race. And for the drivers who have pitted for the final time, it's push, push, push right to the end now. Because I think that the hard tyres should be okay until then. Now, another thing I was about to point out just before then was, I'm trying to remember what the thing was that I was about to point out. It was something. I was very much distracted by Filip Pushka slamming his car against the barriers, and I think I've forgotten it, but whatever the case. Oh yes, Russ, we're almost 3/4 of the way into this race, and none of the drivers who are still remaining have been put a lap down. That's very impressive.
Oh, really?
Especially, yeah. Oh, and Pushka's out of the race. Pushka's car has just exploded into a ball of flames, and that is because he's been sitting in the pits for too long. So Filip, with that long pit stop, obviously his engine began to overheat. He came out of the pits with it badly smoking, and then as he came through turn 2, it burst into flames, his rear axle locked up, and he spun around and got a face full of fire. That cannot have been comfortable. I'm very glad that it is sim racing.
Yeah, that'll do it. Engine seizing up then, unfortunately, for the Filip Pushka. But yeah, great stat there, though. No one else has been lapped. That's that's really interesting.
Yes,
but,
and sorry, it's a super short circuit here as well.
Yeah.
70 laps. You'd definitely have expected a lappery by now. I was actually going to say that before the race, that one of the things that comes with having such a strategic race on such a short circuit is that we will end up having drivers 2 or 3 laps down. But I mean, we're just not. I mean, we've got 18 laps to go, and still, I mean, the top 19 drivers are within 40 seconds almost. This is great.
Yeah, this is really, really close racing. I mean, we saw in qualifying, as always, how close it was. But normally, come race time, there's a little bit more a gap in the field. But, everyone's been really, really fast in today as Lalu pits from P5. Guess it shows just how popular this circuit is with the drivers, that everyone is willing to put in the practice. Everyone is willing to put in the effort to be on pace. Just going back to Filip Pushka quickly, I'm afraid to say that his accident, I think, was just a case of some dodgy physics there, which is a shame. Of course, if you hit a sausage curb like that in real life, I don't think you'd quite bounce straight vertically upwards.
You never know, Russ. You never know.
You never know, maybe, but yeah, personally, I think that was just a bit of a dodgy physics moment. But R Factor 2 is trying its best, trying its hardest. But yeah, but I'd say a shame Filip Pushka. Then there were 20, as they say, on lap 53 of 70. Getting to crunch time. Lalu comes out into P18. So only drops 8 places. Stefan Rolt. Is he going to need to pit again is the question that's on my mind. Does he need to box again? I think he does. Which then creates the question, does anyone else need to box again? And then where do they all come out in comparison with each other? So, you know, there's not long left in this race as Rolt starts lap 54 of 70. And we're not really entirely, or I'm not sure, should I say, rather, who's going to be finishing where, really. Michi Hoyer's now, meanwhile, is back up into P08. So great stuff there from Michi Hoyer. He's been, again, carving his way through the pack today and is set for a great result. But yeah, Stefan Rolt, he's made 2 pit stops. Can he go to the end?
I think so. He pitted on lap 41, of course. Hoyer taking a look at Moose. Sorry, that is for position, so keep your eyes on that one. But yeah, so Stefan Rolt, he pits on lap 41. That means, of course, 29 to go. And people have done similar lengths of the race to that, I think, so far. It's going to be on the cusp, because that is a very long stint. You're absolutely not wrong there. And he's still flexible, so if something happens and he decides he needs to go for a 3-stop, I think it won't cost him that much time. But right now, he doesn't have that much time to give away. I mean, Winnick's now 3 seconds behind him. The gap's still coming down. Maciej is faster than him here. Daniel Stepkowski may also be faster than him, because the gap between those two, 6.5 seconds, so remember that and look back on that every now and again. But Rolt is definitely not the fastest driver on the track right now. I think he's just conserving tyres. I think he just wants to make absolutely sure that he can go to the end of the race and his tyres don't drop off a cliff like we saw happening to, say, Moritz Kropp earlier on. But anyway, yeah, you're absolutely right, Ross. It is going to be close, and there will probably be some drivers up the front who will lose the game of chicken and have to go for a 3-stop. But I don't think it's going to be anyone in the top 5, and I don't think it's going to be anyone who has a chance of winning this race right now.
We'll have to wait and see as the race pulls into its final phases. But yeah, it's still almost as open as a book, really, here. Michi Hoyer, though, who is still following around in P8, unsure whether to attack or defend at the moment. Matthias moves ahead, Adam Mcguire behind. Yeah, it's been a very good race for Michi Hoyer here today. I know I've been singing his praises and whatnot, but yeah, he's done very, very well. You know, moving up from that P16, he's been a driver who, you know, time and time again, there's been flashes of his brilliance that we know is there deep down. But it's just never really been realised. I mean, he's only P14 in the championship. He's had a couple of points finishes here and there, a few DNFs, no real kind of strong results. And although his best result was a P7, so better than what we're seeing at the moment, it's been a very mature drive today from Michi. Very responsible drive. I think he can move forward as well. So it's good stuff from him. And he'll be looking to focus his eyes on attack and his eyes on the gearbox of Matthias Moose in front. But he's not before he comes under attack from Adam Mcguire. And he's just letting Mcguire do his thing. Oh, a bit of a wobble on the exit of turn 1, getting the throttle down. But yeah, just letting Mcguire do his thing, letting Mcguire attack. He's not getting too wrapped up in defending the number 14 driver. Just let him do his thing, as you saw there when Mcguire pulled out to the inside, just a dummy, just to try and see if there was a gap and maybe see if Michi could take the bait and shoot Michi out wide. Michi just stayed put, was just perfectly happy, sitting on the racing line, doing his thing, doing another lap, as you do, you know. So, yeah, it's been a good race so far from Michi Hoyer. Another driver who's also had a really good race, in my opinion, Dan Stepkowski. With that fantastic strategy to get him into that top 3 onto the podium place. Of course, he was running in second earlier on after the early phase of pit stops, just playing the strategy game perfectly and managing to, well, I say luck in, he's just kind of pushed himself forward there, and he's had the pace to keep himself there, to be fair to him, but it was just the getting himself there in the first place through some genius decisions in the pit stop window. Further back though, Leon Bock looking to move past Tom Stevens, who's a driver who keeps cropping up, it seems.
Indeed. Leon, I've been watching him for a few laps actually, out of the corner of my eye. He's been getting closer and closer. Meanwhile, Stefan Roll just pulled out about a second on both Winnick and Stepkowski a couple of laps ago. So Roll has seen that they're getting closer and has decided to retaliate, putting in a couple of quick laps. 4 seconds is now the gap to Winnick. About 8.5 to Daniel Stepkowski behind. Stefan should still be comfortable at this point in time, but remember he's got to make sure his tyres don't go off the cliff, otherwise Winnick is going to be all over him like a rash. Tom Stevens and Leon Bock are also fighting, as we saw just a little while ago, and on the straights Leon does get alarmingly close. There you see actually the top 3 were all very briefly in one shot for a couple of frames anyway. Moose and Hoyer and Mcguire actually are running close in a bit of a train actually over 7th, 8th, 9th. Vorburn, Harvey and Shepherd not that far off them. Oh, what's happened there? So Mitchie's been for a spin. Mitchie Hoyer goes for a Sebastian Vettel-like spin out of the final corner and recovers it well. He didn't hit the wall, but he's lost some positions, and Mitchie, who was one of the top drivers on an alternate strategy in this race, has just lost that title and lost plenty of positions because they were in such a close train. We're going to see a replay of it now. There was no one else involved. It looks as if he just got over the curb and the AstroTurf, and maybe a little bit of a physics bug in there somewhere because his car did seem to jump a bit. At least it did on my screen. From there, it just looks like a straight-up driver error.
Wow, what a save from Mitchie Hoyer.
Yeah.
Sebastian Vettel there. Absolutely brilliant to keep that out of the wall.
I think that was just a tribute to Sebastian Vettel, who announced his retirement earlier today. That's what we saw there. He was just bringing back the old classic. There he goes, round all the way, 360 degrees. Mcguire says thank you very much, goes through into 8th position. And Hoyer, as a result of being at the head of a train, is now all the way down to 15th place. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Fournier is on the tail of him, and he's now the fastest car on the track on medium tyres. So Jeffrey Fournier still has a good chance of points here today, and probably will be in the points by the end of this one. Here's Robin Panzer on the back of Chris Shepherd now, and they don't have Mitchie Hoyer in front of them anymore, although that has separated them a bit from Mcguire and Vorburn. They were a little closer before all of that happened. I wonder if Shepherd maybe braked a bit to make sure that Hoyer wasn't going to spear across the track in front of him, which can happen when cars are spinning out of control like that. Hoyer has lost a place now to Fournier, so Fournier is up into the points. Made quite impressive by the fact that he was forced to start from the pit lane, and also he had to dodge that big pile-up earlier on, if you remember that. Got a little dink in it, although braked enough that it was a very slow speed incident, and he didn't end up losing his front wing or anything. And yeah, it hasn't been a dominant recovery drive, but he's certainly been doing everything that he needs to at least guarantee that he's going to take something away from today. We have now had our first lap race, Stefan Musadis, who is a lap down. Although at the rate the rest of the field is going, that may be the only time we see a driver being lapped today. And the rest of the field, still very competitive, still all fighting over those points positions. I may have spoken too soon because we've got a yellow flag out there somewhere. And it's the long one. Moritz Kropp has gone for a spin. So Kropp, his day has gone from bad to worse. And there is Thomas Schwach alongside Robin Panzer. Now, Kropp's incident happened with Lewis Bickers. It looks as if Kropp lost it by himself and lost his front wing. And then Bickers came through and had nowhere to go, and he lost his front wing. And they have both been into the pit lane as a result. Neither of them were going to score points anyway, but now it looks like they're both going to drop off the lead lap. So, as I spoke, I've been proven wrong.
Well, it's not always your day, is it, Caitlin? Sometimes things don't quite go your way, such as the life of a lowly commentator. Back to the action, though, with 10 laps remaining, and it's Daniel Brewer currently running P14, who we're watching at the moment with Vac and Panzer in front of him, Fournier behind. Fournier, who's been, well, all over the place, it would seem today. He's been up, he's down, he's been sideways and facing the wrong way, he's been getting involved, he's been having connection issues and apparently in different planes of existence according to the game. But Daniel Brewis had a bit more of a calm ride, of course, running that number 5, which is not making me feel sad whatsoever, given the news today. As Robin Panzer getting very, very close to Thomas Vack there, and actually touching Chris Shepherd, should I say. And that allows Thomas Vack now to get the run. And Robin Panzer slamming the door, but then he runs wide and gets sideways and almost spins into the path of the E-team. Oh, they make contact! They make contact into the wall. No rear wing, and out of the race goes Thomas Vack. Robin Panzer will have big damage there, and that's the first really, really big incident we've seen in this race for a while. Let's just go and follow that once again. Robin Panzer just ran too wide, hit the brakes. Hang on, so we'll go again from turn 1. Why not? So he turns in, almost makes contact with Chris Shepherd, then violently shuts the door on Thomas Vack there with a very aggressive move. Runs too wide into turn 3, gets a bit sideways, then coming through turn 4, just doesn't quite make the apex, does he? Turns in a little bit too late, not aggressively enough. The two come together, and Vack into the wall and out of the race. Panzer are able to continue, but what a shame there for the pair of them. And it was all going so well as well. That's a big shame, but that is racing. Sometimes accidents are going to happen. Vack is out of the race. Our next retirement leaving 18 drivers. Pansal remains in. He'll have to box for repairs, but yeah, that is a big shame.
Indeed, apologies if you had my phone go off there. That was my boss. Anyway, continuing on with the race, we have 8 laps to go now. And there you see the positions that people have made up. Fournier up 15, partially helped by the attrition. And talking of that, Vok and Vickers are now both out of the race as a result of their own incidents. So only 18 cars remaining now, and only 16 on the lead lap. And only a few drivers have actually been able to lose positions as a result. Moritz Kropp, the most notable, unfortunately. He has had a torrid race. Now, what Moritz needs is just some more practice, really. He just needs to keep going with Superleague, because we can tell that he's extremely good. I mean, in Formula Sprint 1, he's been phenomenal, but he does make mistakes sometimes, and things don't go his way. And there's only one real cure for that, and that's experience. You've got to keep trying, and someday something will go your way. You'll gain experience, you'll gain confidence, and you'll be able to make things go your way forcefully from then on. Daniel Brewer just passed Chris Shepherd. They're still in a good old fight. That's over P11. And Jeffrey Fournier might be about to make up another place in all of that. He does. He goes up the inside of Chris Shepherd. So Fournier is still on a real charge in this race, and up into 12th position as it stands. The major change of this race, of course, the fact that the two Edge Esports cars swapped early on when Royal appeared to have the pace. Maciej Winnick had the pace at the start of this stint, although Royal has been getting it back ever since. He is now even further ahead of Winnick than he was before. About 5 seconds is the gap, when at one stage it had come down to 3 seconds. And Daniel Stepkowski is probably more worried at this point about Yannick Bock, who is still there in 4th place. Yannick's been having a bit of a quiet race, hasn't he? But he's not out of it yet in terms of potential podium positions. Here's the other Bock, Leon, sandwiched between Tom Stevens and the lapped Moritz Kropp. Through turn 2 now. And he doesn't have to worry about Kropp behind him. But Stevens ahead of him, that's a different matter, because that's a top 5 finish waiting for him there. And considering he won the last race, I don't think he'd be too pleased with 6th. It wouldn't be a Leon Bock style performance. The Evolution Motorsports car has clearly been quicker at some of the other rounds, because neither Yannick nor Leon are running in the podium positions like they normally are. And this is the team leading the team's championship. Shows you how good they've been, though, that we're talking about this being a dull round for them, and they're running 4th and 6th as it stands, especially considering Yannick Bock still has a chance of scoring a podium if things go his way in these last 5 laps. But on Evolution Motorsport standards, this isn't great.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Evolution boys, hasn't quite gone their way, has it? Especially when you kind of look at their results. I mean, 5 podiums in the last, well, no, 7 podiums rather, or 6 podiums rather in the last 4 races. 4 for Yannick Bock involving a victory in 2 seconds, 2 for Liam Bock involving a victory and a second. You know, they've been very, very consistent. So to finish out both drivers outside of the podium is not what they need, and especially for Yannick Bock when you look at who's in second, Masej Munek. Interesting, no team orders coming in as well for the front runners. Robert Munek, of course, teammates over at Edge Esports. They're not swapping places anytime soon, I don't think. The reigning champion set to take his 2nd win this season. But yeah, Masej Munek looking to close that gap back up in the championship. Have to wait and see what's going to happen.
Some more comments coming in on YouTube. Sorry I haven't been able to read them all out, but I have been keeping an eye on them. Some people commenting on some of the incidents we saw earlier on. Toby Davis saying, agreed about the Moritz thing. He's very fast, but he's also still very young. He's only 17 years old. Yeah, that's absolutely true, and that's my point there. Last year was his first season on R-Factor 2. It was indeed. And Lee Davison chimes in saying he seemed like a nice guy at GPWC Day. Yes, indeed, he did. I met him at the same place, and yeah, he's a very nice, very friendly guy with a mature head on his very young shoulders. Stephen Lexo saying good morning. Hello, Stephen. Good to see you in here. Plenty of other racers and other GPWC members watching along and getting involved. David Yunt saying Burst really missing me and Yerne right now. Yes, indeed, you need to get back involved here. Josh Downard also watching the stream. 4 laps to go in this race. And we've got a bit of a good morning chain going on. 4 people saying good morning. Thank you to Stephen, Josh, Owen, Mcguire, Szymon, Frelik. Goodness, what have you started, Stephen? Okay. So, 3 laps to go. Royal leads by 5 seconds over Winnick. Then it's Stepkowski, Bock, Stevens, Bock, Moose, Mcguire, Bulburn, and Harvey. That's how it stands. Leon Bock lining up Stevens, who sees him coming and goes very defensive. Does not want to give up that position, or even give him a chance to take a look at that position. Moritz Kropp, an eager spectator in the background there. And here is Jakub Lalu making a move now on Chris Shepherd, who twitches but stays in 13th position. Race anywhere. He's going to race up the inside of Chris Shepherd. Oh, not quite. And Shepherd twitches again. Shepherd with a very tail-happy car in these last few corners. Anyway, Yannick Bock has got within 1.5 seconds of Daniel Stepkowski. That fight for P3 is still not over yet. He's got to get a move on because the time is ticking down. But there you see it. It is visually closer than it was earlier. And could he get DRS this time around? Well, there's the detection zone that they've just gone across. I don't think he quite got it, did he? He did. Yannick in the DRS zone for the first time in a while. And now he can really start his attack, because now he's going to be faster than Stepkowski on the straights. And though he's going to be struggling in the corners, he's also going to be fired up with the vision of a podium there. Stepkowski has been so unlucky in this championship so far. He's had some good results snatched away from him. But today he could score his 2nd GPWC podium if he just brings it home ahead of Yannick Bock here. And there's the other Bock, Leon Bock, still in a fight.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Lalu looking once again. Of course, you could pick a Lalu on that medium compound tyre late in the race, looking to get into P13. Yeah, Stefan Rolt has been pretty phenomenal today, moving up from 2nd into the lead from the start. Yeah, he's just been very strong, hasn't he? And he's just looking to take this victory with only a few laps left until he crosses the line for the checkered flag. Yannick Bock, meanwhile, trying to get onto that podium place in this battle with Daniel Stepkowski. And he's very, very close to the third place driver, isn't it? This would mean so much for the championship fight. To the outside goes Yannick Bock, and through goes Yannick Bock with a great move, swooping around the outside of turn 1. Great stuff there. And that means that the dent that Masaj Munich will be making in Bock's championship hopes are so minimal, as Leon Bock meanwhile trying to move up places as well on Tom Stevens, who was still all to play for even late in this race, but that by Yannick Bock was a great move onto the podium.
Absolutely. Hello to Colin Spork. We have a former GPVWC Super League star in the YouTube chat saying, great to see the Edge drivers running 1-2. Yes, indeed. It would be amazing to see what Colin would have done in this race. I imagine they would still be 1-2, but in what order? And where would Colin be? Well, we won't know, unfortunately, because Colin, you left us. Damn. Anyway, back to the race. We're about to start the final lap of the race very shortly. Stepkowski probably won't have another opportunity to get past Yannick Bock. So unless he can slipstream his way back through on the straight, I think it's going to go the way of Bock. Roll, it starts the final lap. The gap has come back down to 3 seconds, and I hope Edge Esports aren't planning anything sneaky on this last lap here, because of course they do have the championship contender in second place here, but I'm not suggesting that they are going to swap the drivers. Yannick Bock is third place and did manage to fend off Stepkowski, and there is Leon Bock to the outside of Tom Stevens. And Evolution have launched a couple of attacks in these late stages in the race, and it seems they might both be about to work. Leon Bock does go through on the inside line, so Evolution go from 4th and 6th to 3rd and 5th, which sounds a lot better. Leon Bock ahead of Tom Stevens, who now has his Nocturne teammate on his tail, despite the fact Moritz is still a lap down. Meanwhile, final sector of the course now. Stefan Roll just has a couple of corners to go before he will win at the Hungaroring. It will be just his second victory of the season, and a very well-deserved one. He was faster than Maciej Munich and passed him fairly and squarely in the early stages. Stefan Roll wins at the Hungaroring, and it's an edge 1-2 as Maciej Munich is able to bring it home in second place. They had a fantastic overall day, as shown by qualifying and as shown by that race there. Yannick Bock is third, Daniel Stepkowski is fourth. Leon Bock claimed 5th position on just the final lap of the race. An exciting finish there for 5th position. And Tom Stevens will claim 6th place there, his best GPWC Super League result. Matthias Moos will be 7th, and then it's Adam Mcguire, Yanis Vorburn, and Thomas Harvey. And missing out on the points are Dan Brewer, Jeffrey Fournier, Jakob Ekalalu, Robin Panzer, and Chris Shepherd. They all stream across the line now. There is Chris Shepherd in the background, who's about to claim the last points-paying position. And I guess the real questions now are, what would Fabio Sixter have done if he hadn't have retired so early? And what does this mean for the rest of the championship? Does it mean it's Edge's time to shine now? Or can Evolution get their grip of the championship back? We will see.
Yeah, what a race we have just seen here at the Hungaroring. Brilliant stuff from some of the drivers out there. It will be Stefan Roll taking his second victory of the season with Maciej Munich in P2, and he narrows the championship gap with Yannick Bock down in P3. Daniel Stepkowski manages P4 with Leon Bock, race winner last time out, only manages P5. Not a great day in the office for the Evolution guys, unfortunately, as Munich closes in that championship battle, and Edge close in the constructors as well. Tom Stevens, he came home in P6 with Matthias Moos in P7. Adam Mcguire was in P8 with Yanis Volburn P9, while Thomas Harvey, the Holland Racing Team boys, rounding out row 5, and they bring it home in P10 with Dan Brewer in 11th place. Jeffrey Fournier, he finished in 12th. Jukka-Pekka Laulu in P13. Robin Panzer in P14. Chris Shepherd was 15th, with Mitch Hoyer after that unfortunate yet impressive 360-degree spin. He finishes in P16. Stavros Mercedes was 17th, and Moritz Krop was the last runner on the road in 18th. And then we lost a whole host of drivers. We lost Thomas Vach, Lewis Bickers, Philip Pushka, Eris Masculi, Alessandro Quinte, Augustin Canapino, Giordino Valeriano, Hygo Poom, Fabio Sixter, and Germano Zappala. That is a lot of drivers DNFing, but congratulations there to the Edge Esports boys. Congratulations to the man you can see, Stefan Rolt. And as you can see, next up, we've got it Spa style. We're going over to Belgium on the 11th of August for the Belgium Grand Prix. But of course, don't be afraid, because next week, you've got plenty more action to look forward to. Of course, we run lots of leagues here in Formula Sprint, so it's not going to be 2 weeks until your next GPVW action, although it will be 2 weeks until your next Super League action, because we've got Formula Sprint 2, Formula Sprint 1, and the Super Lights to all look forward to across the 2 weeks. So plenty of action heading your way. That will be it then for GPVWC. That will be it then for the Super League this week, and that will be it then for us here in Hungary. But as I said, next time we're going to Spa and we're going to Belgium. Another classic track, both in the real world and in sim. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for the streams and make sure you get watching along when those go up. But until then, it's thank you from us, and we'll see you later.